episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Was brought to you by our very first brand new, totally awesome sponsor, Heritage Theater Group. Stay tuned for the podcast after a word from our sponsor.
Heritage Theater Group is proud to announce their 2017 season. Opening on July 13, Shakespeare's classic tale of morality and justice, Measure for Measure, will be playing on the Spectrum Theater main stage through the 22nd. Closely following that, in the black box space, will be The Importance of Being Earnest, Oscar Wilde's hilariously satirical farce. Earnest opens on July 27 and closes on August 27. We are rounding out the season with the existential tragicomedy Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard, running August 10 through 19. For tickets and more information, visit heritagetheatergr.org. That's heritage, THEATREGR.org. Or give us a call at 616-951-4842. We hope to see you there.
Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! This is a podcast based on a blog of the same name because once upon a time we started a joke, and now we can't stop. Kind of like this show, apparently. My name is Kylie, and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out the blog at couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU wishes you rest from the heat, whatever heat that might be, and hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays, and as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panelists and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the blog or the podcast via iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and via Google Play to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including but not limited to Game of Thrones, Stranger Things, Grimm, American Horror Story, How to Get Away with Murder, Gotham, and the Marvel's Netflix series, including Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist. Plus, a bevy of new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, New Girl, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Supernatural, The 100, Doctor Who, Orange is the New Black, The Originals, and the DCTU series panel covering Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl, with an episode for each show. A return for part 2 of our Sherlock panel to talk series 3 and 4, a final visit with our Broadchurch panel to say goodbye to the mystery drama from across the pond. We'll be launching a new panel covering Lemony Snicket's Unfortunate Events and Sense8, which is getting a finale episode later, so we're no longer looking back at it. Our Buffyverse panel will continue the 5-part series covering Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel with episodes 2 through 5. And because we're also looking back at shows now past, we'll be looking back at Marvel's Agent Carter. What's more, CPU from time to time goes live. We've appeared at Comedy Outlet Mondays at Dog Story Theater and at Grand Rapids Comic-Con in Grand Rapids, Michigan, while streaming live on Facebook. I can assure you that more live appearances are being planned, so make sure you like us at our Facebook page, our Twitter, follow us at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, and or our Pinterest at CPU Podcast, or subscribe to the blog, our YouTube channel, our iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Play. In the meantime, if you don't hear your show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we're always seeking new panelists, so if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback. In fact, please warn us if we're risking shark jumping territory. We need to know! Today, we're around the water cooler and discussing the second half of Season 6 of Once Upon a Time, which airs September through May Sundays on ABC, currently anyway. The 6th season finale aired on May 14, 2017. To remind the listener, Once Upon a Time, or Once, is a fantasy drama wherein storybook and fairy tale characters are not only real, but are living in this world, away from their enchanted kingdoms and worlds beyond reality. The show is currently set in fictional Storybrooke, Maine, as well as in the Enchanted Forest, the fairy tale kingdom from where most of the main characters originate. The action takes place primarily in present day, though there are flashbacks to the characters' past lives before they were whisked away to Storybrooke via a curse wrought by the evil Queen Regina, played by Lana Parrilla, and before they were made run-of-the-mill, real-world residents with serious bouts of amnesia. For a more detailed plot summary, listen to prior podcast episodes about Once Upon a Time, or check out other Once entries on the blog. If you didn't already know, you can click the floating box at the top right of the header, the picture with the TV watcher, and search for any blog entry or prior podcast episode which I think you know is a pretty awesome perk of modern technology. Once again, our esteemed group of once panelists, namely Eddie, Kristen, Amie, Micah, and Emily, have returned, entirely Twitter-pated, to discuss the second half of Season 6, which I don't think was given a special hashtag or arc name, but was full of all sorts of happy beginnings. The goings-on involving the heroes and villains of Once are at a particular crossroads, and the panel and I can't wait to get into the discussion, but before we do, I'm going to take that moment to take the panelist temperature, because as we all know, sometimes a TV show can take turns for the better, or the worse in our heads, or somewhere in the middle maybe. I don't know what they're going to say about this one, or could continue its level of awesomeness or lack thereof, depending upon its story evolution. As always, it should be noted that all of our panelists have viewed the entire show to date, and will, let's face it, discuss sensitive plot points. So for those of you who are not caught up on Once Upon a Time, listen at your own risk, as there may be major spoilers. Welcome back, panel. How are you all today?
Great.
Yay.
So excited to be here.
Are you ready to talk about this kind of crazy second half of the season?
Let's do it. Yep.
And I say that with no judgment. It just was kind of crazy. All right. Well, as I said, we're going to take the panel's temperature. I have again tweaked the character descriptions because they have been tweaked or in the process of being tweaked. Dun, dun, dun. We'll talk about why, but let's see where you are. I'll read the standard CPU character question, which changes with each show we do. Tell us how you feel nowadays. I'll also remind the listener who you are last time, which hopefully will remind you as well. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Are you watching Once Upon a Time because you just love the story and all of its unpredictability and all of its characters like a good author would? Also, you relate to most of the characters and stories. After all, you'll always have the heart of the truest believer. Or will you? Like Henry. Do you like the show? You think the show made a solid comeback and you're prepared to fight for your second chance and show enjoyment without being bowled over by the parts that leave you feeling that you don't like yourself for watching it and loving it? Like Belle. Do you want it to be good because you want to be good? You believe all things should be given second or third or fourth chances, at least regarding your own potential redemption, like Regina or Hook. Do you reluctantly like the show again? Some of the show's latest twists caught you by surprise, especially the idea that Rumpelstiltskin was, spoiler, born a savior, and so you're going to reluctantly keep watching despite the massive changeover to the show for Season 7, like Rumpelstiltskin. You've watched this long, and maybe you found new or renewed love for it before the end of this season, but you've decided you are ready to jump the shark in advance of the next season, like Emma. Do you love the family element because you love your family, and you would do anything, including falling on your sword for the show and for your family, but sometimes the show puts you to sleep, like Snow and Charming? Do you watch it because your family watches it, and like Oz, you'd have nothing left to watch without it, like Zelina? Or you've officially stopped watching. You think it's campy, over the top, and even a little too crazy, with light and dark elements and good and bad points that may awkwardly reconcile, but not in a way that leaves you wholly satisfied. In fact, you may be ready to remove your own heart and put yourself and your allegiance to this show out of their respective miseries, or at least you are willing or wanting to make a fresh start elsewhere, like the evil queen. Who would like to start this time?
I'll go first.
Kristen! Hi, Kristen.
Hi, I'm back again. Surprise, surprise.
I know. Last time you were Emma and a combination of Snow and Charming.
I'm not anymore.
Oh, boy.
I'm still going to be a combination of two, because it wouldn't be me if I wasn't.
It's true.
I'm going to be a little bit of Belle. I like the show, and I feel like Season 6B did make a strong, solid comeback that we've been talking about and we've been waiting for. However, I'm also going to be a little bit of Rumple in the fact that, yeah, some of the twists caught me by surprise, but the only one was that Rumpelstiltskin was born a savior. And I'm also going to reluctantly keep watching despite the massive changeover, which I don't think I'm a huge fan of for Season 7.
All right. Welcome back, Kristen.
Thank you.
Amie here, and I'm
Amie.
also excited to be back. But I wanted to go next because I actually echo Kristen's choices that I'm a little bit of Belle and a little bit of Rumple.
Last time you were Belle and Emma.
Yep. So Bella's still there with her new description. I mean, I do think it made a more solid comeback, not like 110%, but it's getting there. So I'm going to keep watching it because I'm actually curious about what they're going to do with season 7. It actually has piqued my interest a little bit. I'm curious. So yeah, Bella and Rumple.
So you're shipping those shippers.
Yep.
All right.
I am.
Welcome back, Amie.
Thank you.
I'll go next.
Okay.
Hi, it's Eddie.
Hi, Eddie.
As he's waving to all of you.
Hi, and none of you can see me.
Yes. Last time you were Emma and the Evil Queen.
I can't be the evil queen anymore.
Oh.
Okay,
Sorry.
but
Well, that's good, because you that means you have not officially stopped watching.
I haven't officially stopped watching. However, I am still Emma. The
Okay.
only reason I'm still watching the show, and I'm going to watch season 7, is because of you guys. I love doing this, and the show has enough elements and surprises in it that it's holding my interest. But season 7A could be rough, and I might not make it to 7B. Bum bum bum.
Oh, so you haven't jumped the shark yet?
I haven't jumped the shark, but I mean, I'm on the plank, man. I'm like ready to jump.
You added a pirate ship to the scenario. That's fair enough, though. That works. Welcome back, Eddie.
Thank you.
All right, we'll just keep going around the circle as we've been.
The water cooler.
Water cooler.
The enchanted water cooler.
Yes, it's enchanted.
Surround sound.
I was thinking more like magic. Okay.
You and Micah can talk offline.
But no, I was Belle last time, and
You were.
this time I'm going to... I'm not a combination again. I don't think I'm in a combination for a second, but I'm flipping to the other side of that OTP pairing, and all Rumple this time.
You're all Rumple?
Yep, there's enough to keep me interested, but I'm reluctant and just I'm watching it because I want to know what's going to happen, even if it's not great, You got to finish it out. And yeah, the changeover, it's big, but it's big enough to where it's not something so gradual that I'm like, oh, because this goes to that. I'm like, I have no idea how you got there, so I'm willing to come back and find out.
Fair enough. Welcome back, Micah.
I'm Emily. What was I last time?
You
I
were
was
Henry and Belle. You were at the top.
Yeah, and that's a changeover considering you know how much I love Regina and Hug. So this time I definitely am still Belle.
Okay.
But I've got a little bit of Emma in there. I've watched this long and maybe I found a new love for it, but I haven't decided to jump the shark because then I've also still got a splash of Hook in there.
Well, you wouldn't be you without the splash of Hook.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because I do want it to be good, and I think this reboot could be very interesting. I'm really curious to see what they do with it, so that's why I've still got that splash of Hook in there. But I'm definitely Belle, because I think it did make a solid comeback at the end of this season. So we'll see how the rest of the panel feels.
All right. Welcome back, Emily. And I've mentioned I'm Kylie, and I participate as well as moderate this panel. Last time I was like Kristen, Emma, and Snow, and Charming. Thankfully, I did stay awake the entire second half of this season. I think, though, where I landed, and of course I'm always writing these with myself somewhere in the back of my head, what would I pick? Not, I just think about myself. But I think that I would be squarely Rumpelstiltskin. I reluctantly like the show again. Last time I talked pretty heavily about the fact that I was disappointed with the direction of the season in 6A. 6B was a vast improvement. I do agree that it got on more solid footing, and it ended pretty well, and it was very engaging, and some of the twists did catch me by surprise. But the only reason I'm going to keep watching is because it's reluctancy, and also because I run this podcast. And also I like being on the panel with all of you. Normally in my sort of TV watching habits, this would be at a crucial juncture point. Would I normally want to keep watching the show? They're going to change so much of it. Would I even want to experiment with that? I will, for the sake of the podcast and the panel. I don't know that I would normally, just because of where we've been in the past couple of years with Once Upon a Time. But we can talk about that. And we will, because that is the point of this whole thing. So, we've kind of started to alluding to it, giving us... You were talking about your temperatures, actually. But now talk more in depth. What did you like? What didn't you like about season 6B, in which so many things happened?
So
many.
Yeah.
All of the things.
All of the things. Who wants to tackle that subject first?
I'm gonna say something positive. What I do,
Okay, good.
I know, right? I liked what they did with the Evil Queen. We all know my passion for the Evil Queen and Regina. I like that they didn't sweep her under the rug. Mm-hmm. There were parts where I was like, okay, where's this Evil Queen going? Where are we going with her? Again, we've said this a lot, though, with this show, is there was such potential that they could have done.
Hashtag potential drink.
It's gonna happen. But I like that they didn't wishy-washy her. It was nice to have the Evil Queen back. I loved her. And it was also nice to see how that the Evil Queen wasn't part of Regina, of how she truly wasn't herself without the Evil Queen. I really like that writing. Mm-hmm. So if those writers could continue into season 7, that would be great.
Yeah, I remember back when we were after the Evil Queen had first split off and we were talking about that half of the season, I think just the way that those arcs I feel always have to resolve is that they decide, you know what, I actually need this other part of myself, and then she would make the decision to recombine and rejoin with the Evil Queen, which kind of happened. She rebalanced their hearts of darkness and light because she realized that she needed both of those things to actually be a real person. And so I really liked that. I like that they kept her around because, I mean, the first 2 seasons, all we get in the flashbacks is the flashy Regina with all of her glorious clothes. And we got to see I got to see that and the pantsuit at the same time.
To kind of build off on you guys, I like how they wrapped up the Evil Queen storyline with this season, where this is moving ahead essentially to the season finale, with the final curse that the Black Fairy put in place to separate Emma from her family. They all end up in this weird version of the Enchanted Forest in Regina or Zelina's castle, one of the two, I don't remember.
Snow and
Charming. Yeah, they were wedding.
Snow and Charming's castle, thank you. This is why you guys are here. So they're at the castle, all the fairy tale people are there, and the dark curse is coming in to erase all of them from existence. And the Evil Queen...
Which reminded me very strongly of the Never-Ending Story.
A little bit.
I agree.
I just want to say that.
Is this the Never-Ending Story? It might be.
I don't know
where they're going with season 7.
I don't know who owns the licensing for those characters, but, I'll take Falcor in one of these.
Right? Disney buys everything. I'm sure this could happen.
Yeah. But I like that the Evil Queen, she essentially sacrificed herself to hold off the dark curse as long as she could, to give Regina and the Charmings and everybody else who was trapped in the fairy tale land time.
I think that's what made the Evil Queen so good, is that Regina kind of had to be evil, and the Evil Queen kind of had to be good at the same time. Yeah. So, and essentially, even though we had 2 people, we still had one person. Because you couldn't have one or the other.
Mm. Yeah, you need the light and the dark.
It was I really liked that a lot.
Yeah. I had no real excitement about that part of the storyline. I didn't hate it, but mostly when I was watching it, I was just like, okay. So that's how they chose to take care of that problem, because before we were all predicting that somehow they would, quote, come back together, and of course that didn't happen.
Well, it depends on what your definition of come back together is.
Yeah. Well, when we were initially talking about it last time,
that they would essentially become one person.
They would meld back into the single person from whence they started. They didn't do that. I don't care that they didn't do that, I guess. I think it was interesting that the Evil Queen, she kind of went off I think the dynamic of the story that I liked the best was that she was actually the page 23 Regina, the lost page from the storybook that forecasted she was meant to be with Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you think about it, the she was not the Regina Prime, it was the Regina clone. The Evil Queen clone.
I did really like that.
I liked that too.
I like that they resolved those characters together because they were both duplicates in a way. And Regina did point out, because I've kind of been puzzling over a little bit, this Robin Hood, because everyone else in that wish realm was aged as if 28 years had gone by, but this Robin Hood was the same age he was back at the beginning of that 28 years, and I was wondering why, and then it was honestly when I was reading the character descriptions, I don't even know why it came to me, but David mentions, he blames himself for Gideon coming to Storybrooke because he used a genie wish that the Evil Queen would get what she deserves, and he thought that was manifested as Gideon coming to get her. I think that was manifested as her getting a second chance with Robin,
Yeah.
so that's
I agree.
why he
I
came
think
back
so,
into
too.
existence at that point.
And a second
Yeah.
chance with Robin, who wasn't the Robin that we knew, but a
Mhm.
Robin who
Was
had
more
a
rogue.
a
Roguish
rogue,
Robin,
a
yeah.
little villainous
Yeah.
twist to him,
Which
a little
actually
half
worked
light,
quite
half
well.
dark. Yeah.
Quick thought on the Wish Realm. Super happy with the age drunk hook.
I
That was probably my favorite part of that episode.
loved him.
It's interesting that the Wish Realm, just to allude back to some predictions, because of course I listened to the previous episode before I sit down to write these. Micah predicted that the Wish Realm would actually become a realm of existence. It exists. Wish Realm is a Wish Realm now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, I guess they can, like, hat there and just use regular portals to get there now?
That's the
Yeah.
idea. And
Yeah.
apparently the evil queen can magic herself away when she's bored of it, because that's what happened.
Which, yeah, just like zooming out and looking at this from a more comic nerdy perspective of just like how the multiverse of these realms works. Like, first of all, we have them creating duplicates of people, and then she rebalances the heart, so they're just two regular. There's just now another soul. There's just another being that's here now. And then with this Wish Realm, these genies. Apparently there's some things they can't do, but they can create literally a whole other group. Or maybe that realm was already out there and this was just what made the bridge. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's a
We're
lot of
probably
circular
never going to
fantasy
get that.
philosophy.
Yeah. Probably never going to need to get that detailed into it, but it's
No.
just fun to think about.
Well, we're not, because Amie correctly predicted that we would only be there for 5 minutes.
Yeah, which we were.
I'm so glad that we were. I'm
Me
so
too.
glad that
Yeah.
it didn't become like the Wish Realm arc and that
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were there and everything was overdrawn. Like
No,
way
I
drawn
liked
out
it.
And,
Short, sweet, to the point.
August and Pinocchio came back.
oh,
Thank
yeah,
goodness.
I'm so happy.
I love him.
Oh, he's my favorite.
And then he was trying to be like Geppetto and carve the tree into a magical portal thing.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
He's so cute.
But hey, it
like
worked.
him.
Yeah.
It worked.
I was very glad that a lot of this season was not that whole, let's have a whole giant arc of something. They
Yeah.
were like, okay, let's do this. Let's get it done. Let's make it a thing, but not make it a
Yeah.
Across the
huge
board,
thing.
they did a pretty good job of tying up a lot of the loose strings from seasons past. Like,
They
honestly,
did.
I think this half's, like, the flashback game was the best it's ever been.
It was.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
What was your favorite flashback? Because mine was totally Snow and Charming waking up in the middle of the curse.
That was good.
Oh my god, that was amazing.
I was
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that was such a twist.
I love it.
was-
And they got to see Emma when she's like 11, and they're like, we can go to her. No, we can't go to her. We have to go back to sleep. That actually got me.
That got me
That
too.
got me.
Oh my god, yes. I think that was
Yeah.
the highlight for me.
That was creative.
Yes.
My favorite
Yeah.
one. Are we stepping on your toes?
No, he's like, did that even happen?
I know, I'm sitting here like, oh god.
I'm watching his face. That's what I was thinking. What was that?
Yeah, that was my favorite flashback this season.
I'm with you on that. I don't think anything tops it that I remember.
See, my favorite
Unpopular
one.
opinion. I didn't love that only because it felt revisionist.
I agree.
It was like late in the game. Oh, by the way, this happened despite the fact that we've gone over that curse ad nauseum so many times. It was very cute when they saw Emma. And it was the little girl Emma that's been playing Emma, doing her thing, preparing for. She was starting to hum that song, I think, even. in
Yeah,
that
she was
flashback.
humming like Emma's theme.
Just pre the musical episode.
Yeah.
Which we will have to talk about.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But I guess I just didn't get those feels from that because I thought, what?
Yeah, but my question with that perspective then becomes for you or for anybody who didn't really like. For me, I believed it because, or I got feelings from it because I didn't feel when they woke up that second time when the curse broke at the end of the first season that they remembered even having that experience. Like, I feel like that was a window for the fans, for us to be like,
Yeah.
that's another element that they don't talk about because it's possible that nobody remembers that happened.
No, and
So-
they explained that in this episode.
Yeah.
Right. And for that reason it didn't bother me. But I can see what you're saying. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I mean, with so many callbacks to season 1 in this half season, as they're tying up loose ends, I feel like they had to revisit the original curse in some way with something new to keep everything thematically moving forward as well.
Yeah.
And I don't know how else they could have done it. It just,
You could have gone without it.
I guess you guys were way more excited about it. I was like, okay, so that happened. Great.
Yeah.
And then they forgot about it, so it really didn't do anything. It just gave us a window, which is nice.
I had more feels of them being cursed and having to keep waking each other up.
That was good. That
I
guy
was just like, you can't even like that togetherness that they have, even with them like sleeping. One can only be up.
I loved their little videos that they
Yeah,
I
know.
thought those
That's
were
so
cute.
Now that was touching.
Yeah, and they did move that piece of it forward quite a bit.
But once again, we had that flashback that you weren't a big fan of to introduce the flower that they would then use to break
wake
the
up,
curse, which was I was pleased with how they broke that curse. That was decent. Although
they had to do it in a different way because we've seen the true love's kiss in the various forms.
God,
it's like we need something new.
I would like stopped watching.
Yeah.
I just wish for that scene when they were all passing the cup that they had just put real liquid in the cup, because just me as an actor, I'm looking at all these different drinks. I'm like, you're all not drinking the same drink. Like, he's got a full glass, you've got an almost empty glass. Can we just get consistency with the liquor?
That's a pet peeve of mine watching TV as well.
Man,
it's like
magic. The cup never empties until it needs to empty. I don't know.
Well, then give them a direction, like 45 degree, and then put it down. But some people are bottoms up.
I know.
Wow, you were watching
They
that
went
real
for
close,
it.
Micah.
Wow.
hey, it's craftsmanship. I'm
Why
looking like
for
that.
that much detail? I'm so lost. I have to like spark note the show.
But I thought that was a creative twist on the sleeping curse, though, too.
Yeah.
With they were asleep for like 45 minutes. Not even. I mean,
it was just regular
we just
sleep,
shared
like,
the curse. It was
they wake
quick
up,
pet
it's
nap.
like,
We're good. Hey, we're
Well, and
fine.
I loved that ending.
Yeah.
That one
That
was
was cute.
great.
That was good.
Just because that I felt kind of brought it back around to season 1 and season 2 of the show. Because you got to see the whole town. They were all there to support it. Only this time, Regina was part of the crowd. She wasn't the villain. And it kind of brought everything full circle in a more meaningful way. And in a new way.
Yeah.
So that's why I like it.
Yeah, they did a good job with trying things a new way, which they should have been doing all along.
Now, jumping back to Kristen's flashback thing, I want to give an honorable mention to our trip to Agrabah with Ariel making another appearance. And they cast that great actor, which a lot of people recognize from the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies. They cast him as Jafar, and I was like, oh, I liked the other guy, but this also is good.
Well, the
They
other
used him
guy was
no
busy
times.
with Sense8.
Yeah.
Which is fine. He's not busy anymore.
For one more movie!
Leave me alone. That's my show.
Honorable mention
I'm
to that
still
one.
crying inside.
No, he's awesome. I used to watch him when he was on Covert Affairs on USA. So I was already a fan of this new Jafar before he came on board. But I
My
liked him.
actual
Or
favorite
Women
flashback
Fair.
was the Beowulf flashback. We had the background on like a newly minted dark one because Balefire was pretty much painted as like a golden boy. He always did the right thing, but now we got to see.
You know what? I'm with you on that. I
Well,
really
see,
like
if you
that
look
one
at this
too.
one, apparently the young Balefire is a little too old now, so we had a new kid.
Yeah.
Shoes.
Yeah.
But we got to see a little bit of him having a dark return. I'm thinking, you know what? No, people are crappy. Magic is great. Let's do this, Dad. And then Rumpel made like a first good choice and took that away from him and let him still become that.
I liked
golden
that.
boy.
Yeah. I like that element
Speaking
too.
of
Okay,
Rumple, I
that
think
makes
Rumple
sense.
was my favorite character this half
He was killing it.
of the season. I think he's the only one that stayed consistent, stayed strong, and was himself. And I love how he had this attitude as like, I don't care about you, I don't care about you, I don't care about you, I care about my wife.
And my
And
son.
my son.
Wife,
My
my
son.
son. My mom
That's
can
it.
go.
Even though my
Like-
son is trying to kill everybody, but you know what?
He's got reasons.
Don't you dare.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
had reasons.
I mean, he was being controlled, so...
No,
Which
right, but
I'm happy that that's
yeah.
what was going on and that he wasn't actually
Doing it himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going
So-
back after Daddy.
Let's set up the Black Fairy since you're heading into this.
Woof.
Yeah.
Season wise or like origin story wise?
Well, just to we'll get to the origin story because that sort of was kind of covered in this season. Hashtag unsatisfied. But as you know, she was introduced in the last half season. The Black Fairy comes in, and we find out that she is Rumpel's presumably biological mom. Although biological versus adoptive mom, there's, again, I feel a little revisionism happening, but we'll talk. The Black Fairy she's, I guess, evil to the core, and she stole Gideon away and locked him up and took his heart, and she is the author of the curse that Regina used on the town
in
from
season
the
1.
very first. Mm-hmm. And her whole purpose of being, you come to find out, she came to be the Black Fairy, and somebody else can kind of talk through that, but it's because Twist, she found out from the Blue Fairy that, or Mother Superior, depending upon how you like to call her, that Rumpelstiltskin was born a savior of light, and she changed his destiny with the shears. The
Which
shears
finally got
came
used.
back.
Yeah, Shears came back, yeah.
She changed his destiny quite dramatically, and he became the Dark One, and now she is an evil fairy.
Yes.
So, what did we think? Because this is all brand new. This all came out starting in the last half season and transcending into this one. What did you think about the storyline?
Weird that Tiger Lily is a fairy godmother.
I liked that a lot.
I like
It was a
Yeah.
weird twist, but I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it
It
too.
made a lot more sense with her character too, even though we were introduced to her. Was she earlier on or no?
No.
I
Either
don't
way,
think we
I
met her in
liked it.
Neverland before.
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
I liked it.
But I think it's also interesting too. It doesn't necessarily pertain to Once Upon a Time, but to think about, if you think about Peter Pan the movie and imagining her as like a fairy godmother, I'm like, okay, that's actually really cute. I like that.
Yeah.
So I like that they did that. But I thought it was really interesting that she ended up being a fairy godmother. I liked that they showed all of the different ones, that they had all of these different fairy godmothers coming together and then trying to stop the Black Fairy. And
Because Rumpel's mother, was she born a fairy?
No.
No, she
No.
became
That part
a
I didn't
fairy.
like.
Became one.
It seemed like that, because apparently Tiger Lily's just gave her a library card to the fairy.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Instant access.
Yeah, apparently there's just a very simple spell if you're holding a fairy wand to turn yourself into a fairy. I was like, come on, like, burn something or, like, have a full moon
A
or
sacrifice.
no natural event. It was just like, oh, you just say this and boom, you're a fairy.
I
There's
just
nothing
want to
sacred
go back
about
to the very beginning. Did we ever meet Rumpel's mom prior to Black Fairy Fiona? 'Cause
We
that's
did
her
not.
name.
We did
We
not.
only
remember
met
her
his
name,
dad,
yeah.
who became Peter Pan.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And I know there was some talk about how much she despised his father, but I don't remember. But
He's got some messed up parents.
yeah.
This whole family, it's like the Skywalkers, just
Yeah.
cascading through time, wrecking lives as
Timely
it goes.
and relevant.
Yes.
Disney.
No, this was the first time we ever heard about Rumpel's mother. We knew that he had one, and we knew that she wasn't in the picture as he was growing up. Now we know why.
I want to know how she met Father. And it's nice that they brought Father pre-Pan, that actor,
Yeah,
back.
they
That was
did.
a fun tie-in. Because Neverland was one of my favorite parts of the show.
Oh, yeah.
It was a good arc. Why did she become the good version of her fairy self?
Because,
Was it to save her son
yes,
from
because she
fighting the
when-
battle?
Well, yes, because when she learned that Rumpel was a savior, she knew from lore. She also knew because the Blue Fairy told her that a savior is destined to die.
That's right.
She
Yeah.
wanted to prevent that outcome
From happening.
by any cost or any means
So
necessary.
she
Yep.
was a self-taught.
So she turned herself dark, used the shears, became the Black Fairy, separated Rumpel from his destiny, which was the savior lore. So now we kind of knew, yes, a savior is destined to die, and what happens when a savior cuts themselves off from their destiny, which is what Emma was dealing with at the same time.
Correct.
Yes? Okay,
Yes.
cool, thank you.
Yes.
Just as much for me as it is for the listener. There you go.
Right.
Minus the dark piece,
Mm-hmm.
because she experienced her dark
Oh God.
trial,
Before.
the dark swan.
Yeah.
Although with Shadows of the Past, yeah. But looking at Aladdin, I don't recall any mention of him being explicitly in like death's way or destined to die. He genuinely just quit,
Yeah, he's
which
like,
apparently was an option. He was just like,
I
no.
don't feel like being the same.
I don't do that
Yeah,
anymore.
well, he cut his destiny too. I think wasn't that part of it?
Yeah, he
have
used the shears.
He
Oh,
used the
okay.
shears.
That's where we got him
He
from,
couldn't
right?
take it anymore. He wanted to be done, and so he used
All
the
right.
shears.
So in
And
my
then
turn,
became a genie.
What?
Yeah.
There we go. That's where I started getting lost. Is Aladdin became the genie, and he became the genie because they wanted to find Agrabah, right? Him and Jasmine did.
Right,
she
but
wanted
that
to
was
wish-
after he cut his destiny.
Yeah.
And so she was supposed to wish for it, but the evil queen became his master?
First.
Instead?
Yes,
Or
that
was
was
it
at the
first?
end of that little... Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
she
Okay.
became the
So
master
that got-
first.
I was just confused who was Aladdin's master.
It
I
changed.
think they can
Changed.
have, even based on like the Disney movies, I feel like it's like accounts because like Aladdin was Genie's master, and I think he used 2 wishes,
Yeah.
and then Jafar got the lamp and he used his wishes, but then Aladdin got it back and he still only had the 1 wish left. So it's
The
kind of
genie
like
is beholden for 3 wishes to whomever rubs the lamp.
Yeah.
So there's no
Gotcha.
one.
There's no order
wisher
of-
at a time.
Yeah.
And so somebody took it from them and wished Emma...
yeah,
wished-
the evil queen
The evil
got
queen
control
did.
of the lamp.
Yeah.
And then how did Regina get into the wish?
She
Because
wished- she
and the
want-
evil
she
queen are
wished-
the same person.
Yeah, so
This is
Regina,
how
because she had
dense it is,
access
yeah.
via the evil queen, she wished to go where Emma was.
Okay, so now that all of you listening are on the same path as me, thank you.
No, there was a lot of stuff like that I'm like, wait, what's happening? Because there was so much going on this
Yeah.
season.
And
so-
you had to remember
Yeah.
parts of 6A to make 6B make sense. Like all that we just talked about, that was 6A.
6A.
The end of
Yeah.
6A with them being wished to the wish realm. Yeah, then Aladdin and Jasmine going to find Agrabah. I feel like that was earlier.
Well,
Was
they
that 6A?
they
Yeah, we met
started on
Jasmine.
Started,
that
yeah.
because Jasmine became Aladdin's master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the season opened with our glimpse at
Agrabah.
Aladdin in the midst of the,
Right.
I don't know what to call it, savior tremors.
Yeah.
The disease there.
Savior
Condition or syndrome.
I don't think
Savior
they don't have a
syndrome.
vaccine for that.
Savior
Yeah.
syndrome. We just coined it. Copyright TM. Call us.
I wasn't so perturbed about the Aladdin genie business as the Jafar thing, because I'm like, ha ha, he's a genie, and then he was like, oh, bloop, not a genie anymore. Like, I understand how magic works, and I've gotten used to people just waving their hand and the thing that they want to happen.
You've had a
But
magic
come
rant on this podcast before.
You have
But this is a power which we've seen can create a realm.
It's
I
true.
feel like maybe a magician can't just get out of it that easily. But apparently that's not a thing. Apparently Jafar is the best.
I was gonna say, I thought just in general that you couldn't because why then would Aladdin just not be like, okay, I don't want to be the genie anymore.
And I mean, like, maybe if we're jumping and adding in some movie canon just to
You
help
can't
them
wish
out.
yourself out of being a genie.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if Jafar had made the wish to make himself the most powerful sorcerer in the world, which I think was his second wish, then that might explain it a little more. Because maybe the most powerful sorcerer in the world is more powerful than a genie. But it was just too easy for me.
Yeah.
I need a drink.
I'm just kidding.
Hashtag potential. Drink. I don't know about the Agrabah. It was fun to see Ariel again. I will say
Yeah.
that. And I love when I actually. So the storyline one of the storylines that I like the best, other than Rumpel's kind of progression through to the end of the season, was Captain Hook and Emma. At first, I groaned a little bit when it was like, oh, you didn't tell me the truth about, because we find out that he killed David's father. And just sort of a routine pirate raid. It wasn't supposed to be him,
Yeah.
but he did. And then he was so afraid of telling David and or Emma that he didn't tell her in time, and then she tossed the ring at him, and it was like, oh boy, here we go again. But it was a short-lived situation. He was going to run away, but then he got whisked away by Gideon,
Yeah.
and it became this whole big kind of romantic quest to get back to Emma. So one of my favorite parts was him jumping through and landing in the different spots and interacting with the different characters, including Ariel and Jasmine
And Captain
Aladdin.
Nemo.
And Captain
And
Nemo.
his half brother.
They gave them a
think he had
little
a
bit of
line.
a purpose.
Yeah.
I think the half-brother had one line.
They had a little interaction this time around
Yeah.
again.
Well, to be fair, he wasn't that great of an actor.
Yeah.
His one line was
That's
a little
true.
underwhelming.
It's very true.
But it was very cool to see him bouncing around with Captain Nemo again and making those pit stops with
That
Ariel.
was really cool.
Exactly. So I could have done without the Agrabah piece of it, only because I was satisfied with what happened in 6A until Captain Hook kind of showed up and made them part of the larger story.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay,
They brought it full circle.
maybe there was a point to them all along.
It was like
Hooray!
2 separate teams.
Yeah.
Two separate
Yeah.
teams.
And
Agrabah was in the ring the whole time.
Yeah, well, then that's how he
Yeah.
visited Neverland as well, right? Because that's how he got the piece of the fairy wand from Tiger Lily to come back and use that as the weapon to kill her.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Because he bounced into Neverland because he tried to use Aladdin to wish himself back into Storybrooke.
But apparently Gideon had set some kind of barrier spell to keep him from getting back.
Right,
Yeah.
and the way he worded the wish landed him back in
Neverland.
Neverland.
Because home, I think he wanted to go home.
Yep.
And Neverland technically is his home.
Right.
A good amount of time there.
Yep. Yep.
Decent.
Yeah.
So.
I just loved the whole Hook and Emma storyline this season in general. Like, I loved how they finally, like, got their happily ever after.
Happy
And
beginning.
Yeah.
Happy beginning.
Yeah.
Now is ours.
Yeah.
Right. Because I loved when Hook went and asked Charming for Emma's hand. I thought that was just all so cute and so well done. And they got to go do their thing, and that just really just wrapped up their story so well. Or started it, because as we find out more about Henry, it comes at the end of the season. So
We'll get there.
Yep.
who knows?
Because I have info about that.
We're gonna leave
Ooh,
that. We're gonna leave the
exciting.
epilogue a little bit separate when we want to get through the actual season proper,
Yeah.
because that's getting into a whole other thing.
The only
Yeah.
text I
Yes.
sent Kristen was, what?
Yep. Words were said. We'll say those words again.
I was gonna say, Kristen and I were messaging
We were.
after I finished watching it too. We're like, ah!
Now, one thing that bugged me about the Black Fairy arc, which is right at the beginning of Gideon getting stolen as the baby, it's bothered me the entire series that in all the flashbacks, the Blue Fairy is a number one. You do not mess with this woman. She is the most powerful magical user
being
in the land.
ever.
She gets nerfed at every turn. She's either powerless, asleep, technically dead, doesn't have a shadow.
Yeah, technically dead.
Or somehow
She's only
the-
mostly dead.
Yeah. Or somehow the
Nice,
Black Fairy
Princess
just
Bride.
got the jump on her and grabbed Gideon. Like, they went through quite a bit of trouble to give the kid to this person. They gave it to one person, so I have to believe that that was the best choice, and yet, boom, it literally didn't work for any number of days. Like, she went into the Enchanted Forest, Black Fairy comes out, which how did she get out of her realm if she can't do that all the time? I don't know, let's not go into that. But boom, grabs the kid and goes back to her time warp.
Well, maybe we should get into that. Well, that's part of the problem is this would have been a lovely story for them to have kind of like fleshed out over the last couple of seasons, as opposed to cramming it all into this one half.
Like
season.
13 episodes.
I told you, Spark Notes.
Yeah.
Well, and it was the first really. I mean, I don't think there's been much allusion to a Black Fairy or situationally something like a Black Fairy in anything Disney has done and anything that comes out of literature. This was one of the first truly original Once Upon a Time ideas.
Yeah, because realistically, Maleficent is the Black Fairy.
Correct.
True.
This incarnation of the Black Fairy is entirely original.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I mean. I mean, something that... Because Maleficent has a whole entirely different arc. And they have a Maleficent on the show. So they... Where is Maleficent?
Where is Lily? And where's Lily? And where's her father? All the questions that didn't get
Will
answered.
Scarlet?
Oh,
God, they just
Yes,
dropped
what
people.
happened to Will Scarlet?
I missed I'm thinking about, I want to rewatch Wonderland, because I watched it like back before I was even super into Once Upon a Time, just to like fill the gap in between seasons. And it was really good. And it was phenomenally cast. And like, yeah, I'm sad he was the only one they brought in. Because I haven't
But
seen
then
he disappeared.
shoved him off. He just disappeared.
Because he got the promise of he's going to be a series regular, and then he was Belle's boyfriend for a hot second, and then
Just to make him
no,
jealous.
It was
Yeah.
like
He's
one
gone.
day diner. Oop, did your job? Got to go.
yeah, so much for being a series regular. Buddy.
It was just like Hook, though, or not Hook.
Robin.
Robin. They said he had just been promoted to a series regular. He was on like 2 episodes of this half season, and then now he's gone again. Like, but I want Robin. I love him so much.
I need him in my life for many reasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the showrunners say no.
JK. Hashtag potential.
When she was trying to bring him back from the wish realm, I'm like, girl, I feel your pain. Like, I would be all over that.
Yes.
Does this mean you've abandoned your Merlin fantasy?
Oh no, that's still there.
Have you met him?
Yes. I was just checking.
I did that one on my own.
So that's what I'm saying. You're basically kind of making my point go the distance, haha, without Hercules.
I was going to say Hercules.
Let's not flash back.
Let's not go back to
We're talking about wasted characters.
You
That's
going-
not-
Amen.
I do love Snow the most when Hercules was around. Anyway, sorry.
And
Different
maybe,
season.
Robert Carlyle is one of the returning regulars, so maybe
Thank goodness.
They'll flesh it out a little more.
flesh that out a little bit
Yeah.
more. It's just one of those things that I was like, there's a lot of, again, hashtag potential. And they did a lot better with it this time. There was definitely sort of a holistic arc to the Black Fairy. And we got the twist, which was quite a twist. I was not expecting them to say that. I was like, oh, what just happened? But I wish they had taken that a little bit further, or maybe spread it out over the season better.
Mm-hmm.
The twist?
The whole Black Fairy.
Oh, okay.
We
Story.
needed more. Because
Yeah.
all we had
More.
from 6A, I believe, was the flashback of him somehow knowing that, tracking down that she was his mother and
Yeah.
that conversation.
only-
And 6A was so scattered and so lost.
Yeah.
The other
Yeah.
thing that I hated about this season is, like, you blinked your eyes and they were taken somewhere and they were trying to find a way back home. Like, didn't they go to Mirrorland? I don't even know what it was
That was
called.
the first.
That was 6A.
That was 6A.
Again, I'm sorry.
We'll get to
But they went to the Wish Realm, the Mirrorland.
Well, they
and-
ended up in the place with the doors to the different realms
Yeah.
Which
because
apparently is just where the Hatter would normally go.
that's
We
where
haven't
it's like
seen
the crossroads for the Hat portal.
It's
It reminded me of
a telephone.
Nightmare
Nightmare Before
Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different holiday worlds.
I did like, because I paused it and tried to make out as many of these doors as possible. I could only make out one, and it was like a big mask with a Pacific Islander theme. So Moana is real. Even if they're not going to put her in the show, she exists
Yeah,
in
that's-
the continuity,
yeah, they
and
just-
that's enough for me.
Yep, she exists in that realm.
Although I'd love if they brought her into the show because
Side
I'm
note,
like
just
Frozen.
watched that.
Oh, you just did?
So good.
Welcome.
I haven't watched
Welcome
it
to
yet.
life.
I'm
I've
gonna
watched it
have
twice.
to. I'm going.
This
to.
that one I wouldn't mind them plugging in. Like when I saw just the end teaser video of Frozen being introduced, I flipped the table. I was so done. Moana I wouldn't mind, and also the actress who voiced Moana could very well play her as well. And I'd
Oh,
love
yeah.
Which would be very
That would
perfect.
be
so
I love
awesome.
her.
She's
But she's going to be busy because she's on a new show on NBC in the fall. So yeah.
So I was just going to say
It's
the only
about a
reason they ended up in the
Fullerton
Hat portal
Oh,
room was
okay.
because this was after Emma stopped believing in the series finale, and all the stuff started to crumble away like the nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the whole point, because that was part of the separation of Emma from her family.
Right. You mentioned Beowulf earlier. Were you
Yes.
on the side of liking that introduction or not?
I was happy to have his character there. I haven't read the book because it
Oh,
was never
I have.
required in school.
I have to.
I read
My
it.
only exposure is the movie in which it's like he's a hero, and then it's like, wait, no, he's kind of no, he's not. He's a bad guy. But
He's morally complicated.
Yeah.
and this guy was definitely morally complicated, a little more complicated than moral. But I appreciate what he was used for, and it kind of gave the sword some meaning, which I don't know if we needed any more sword having meaning from the
Yeah,
Camelot
right.
arc. I'm good. It could just be any sword.
Yeah.
They kept it simple. We're just like, yeah, this one will bring you victory, and I was like, okay.
See, I don't know how I feel about Beowulf being introduced, just because I don't know how I feel about them introducing all these literary characters in general, like the whole Jekyll and Hyde arc and all of that. I thought the idea behind it was kind of cool, that they had the whole realm of untold stories, which I thought was
Which
cool.
they did nothing with.
Which is fine.
Yeah. Been there.
Been there, done that. It's okay. But I don't know how I feel about them now introducing more literary characters, unless it's because that's how what's going to happen in season 7. I don't know if maybe that's where they're kind of heading with all of this, but I don't know how I feel about Beowulf.
I don't know. They sprinkled people in there the whole time. I thought it was kind of a very random choice.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we need somebody for the Ogre Wars to make it seem really formidable to Rumpelstiltskin just after the Dark One transformation. Beowulf.
who's the first
It's
hero.
it's like they
Throw
might
a
as
dart.
well have used like one of the people from Pride and Prejudice or something.
And then, as you can see from the informal poll of the room, half the people have read the story and half the people have not. Because I think at one point it was required reading, and now it's not.
That's the only reason
I
I
didn't even read it till college. It was for my English lit class, or British literature class in college that I
I
had
had
to
to
read
in
it.
high school, but I was in honors
Yeah.
English.
See,
so-
it doesn't bother me that they incorporate these other like literary characters, as long as they do it in a way that is it feels organic. Yeah, like
I don't
Jekyll and
think the
Hyde.
show
I
knows-
actually like that.
I don't think
that
the
story.
show knows what organic is.
Well,
No.
but you know, they've done it before where things have felt purposeful and like interesting. It doesn't bother me, but as long as people know the references or it makes sense.
I think the problem with the introduction of the whole ogre thing, I mean, like, that, it didn't bother me. The only reason why it bothers me that they introduced him is because why are you introducing another character? Like,
Yeah.
I don't care where you came from, who you are. I mean, I knew the background because I've read the book, but my thing is really for all I care, it could have been Henry in another life who did the same thing. It's just not a new character.
It did seem rather rammed in there, and that's, I think, was my problem with it.
It's
too.
almost like
They do that a lot, though.
Well, they needed a
Sixes.
sub-story, because they need a sub-story for everything. And they needed a character, and that's the only reason why. And I think we're getting to the point where you can't do that anymore. And I mean, I've said this on many other podcasts for this show, is that we need to get back to our core, but as we're about to discuss, what's that?
Gone.
The core is gone. It's gone nuclear.
It exploded.
It exploded.
You know, I've said for a while that the Charmings need to leave. Well, be careful what you wish for.
What about the episode, and this hook was off and trying to get back, but the episode with the girls' night?
I have one
Regina,
problem.
Snow, and Emma.
And the problem is with what we were just talking about, the introduction of characters. I love having Ace up there. Cool, bring him in. He was cool, seemed like a cool guy. Having it be Gideon in disguise, I'm fine with villains doing a lot, and they've gone through great lengths in this show. But was he impersonating Aesop who was there, or did Gideon open a bar? Because that's a lot to go through. He had to get a business license, he had to get a liquor license, he had to have it built.
Well,
He
and
had magic. He could just
Right.
have made it all happen.
Somebody's gonna notice. Then it's gonna be like, oh, a bar literally popped out of nowhere. Let's go.
well,
in.
but
Right, when it's, you know,
or
never
was it the
typical.
same bar that Evil Belle, aka Lacey, was in when she had her little evil?
Ah, yes. 'Cause
Twist.
we have we've never seen two bars at the same time.
We have not. Usually they go drink at Granny's. We've seen them drinking at Granny's
That's
a lot.
true. They go drink at Granny, which is weird because that's a diner.
Diner.
Yeah.
What's the
Hey,
bad
some
part?
diners have booze. They do.
Yeah.
There's one in Edison, New Jersey.
It also seems like they could probably
Guys,
just
I'm
bring in
doing
whatever they want to into Granny's, and Granny doesn't care because she's like only in ever half of an episode. So
But when Granny shows up, you know Granny's there. And that's what I love about
It's
her.
the heart.
Right.
Storybook,
Yeah,
as
right.
we saw.
It is.
She is a stable mainstay of the town.
She said it
Her
herself.
granddaughter, not so much.
No.
But they went and married her off to Dorothy now, and they're doing who knows what.
Yeah,
Oz,
they're
Oz is
saving
in such a
Oz.
state.
Well, apparently Oz crumbled to the ground.
Let's say we could talk about Oz and the whole Tin Man thing.
Let's talk about Oz.
Oh yeah, I forgot
I
about
forgot
that.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking that Kylie.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, talk about a Tin Man.
She is facing it,
come
and
up
I'm going through
organically at
this
all.
is how I moderate. I was just practicing.
Micah already said it. Remember that organic thing? That's not organic.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, I don't remember much of the whole Tin Man thing, but it happened.
There wasn't really a whole lot of point to it.
Yeah,
No.
there wasn't a lot of point to it. You were just learning that, which everybody already knew, that Zelina, she has the jealous streak. She has to be
Yeah.
the best at everything, and was morally compromised for a very, 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 very long time. It's in the same episode where she decides to take it upon herself to challenge the Black Fairy and ends up turning all
Oh,
those
that's right.
light crystals into
Dark crystal.
empowering dark crystals for the
Mhm.
Black Fairy.
And then
which-
makes the decision to give up her magic in order to undo that mistake.
Exactly.
And then she leaves. Did she leave?
No.
She did
No,
not make
she
it out.
got
That's right.
something out of the tornado.
Regina did try to teach her to drive.
That's
Yeah.
right.
The best
No, that
moment
was-
of the entire season was that moment.
Who did she hit?
The Black Fairy.
She-
Right.
Like that's singing magic and then just a freaking station.
And she said the funniest thing. It's so much easier when you're trying to hit the target.
Yeah.
Hands down, favorite
That was
moment of
fun.
the
That
whole
was
season.
fun.
Because we forget with these magic duels, and that happens in a lot of different shows, that you can just hit them.
With a car.
You can just
You can
punch
kill with
people.
You
car.
don't have to use magic. You can use like real
What you have.
Yeah.
I mean, there was part of me.
Be resourceful.
Yeah, I promise I'm not this sadistic in person, but I did want Zelina to like back up the car. I was kind of done with the Black Fairy
She's
by that
probably
point.
immortal. Just go for it.
Yeah, I wanted Zelina to reverse and hit her again. Maybe a third time if she was feeling lucky.
Wow.
Well, then it went from not premeditated to premeditated.
Lawyers.
Yes,
Yeah.
because it was an accident the first time.
Hey,
Yes.
there are no lawyers in Storybrooke,
No.
and I think they need some.
There's also one police person, maybe two, if David's having a good day. That's it. It's Emma and her dad. That's it.
That seems a little.
That's because the wolf
shady.
was killed way back in season 1.
Black.
Oh, the huntsman?
Yeah, that was Jamie Dornan.
Christian
who-
Grey.
Yeah.
Sheriff
He's
Skinny
now known.
Jeans.
Sheriff Skinny Jeans.
Yeah.
That is coined from Entertainment Weekly. That is not a CPU original.
No.
Because now he's
Now he's
He
doing
went
to
BDSM.
He did. That's why he left to go film 50
Which
Shades.
is like, okay, I mean, if you're gonna go from being Sheriff Skinny Jeans to being like naked, okay.
We're not
I went and
opposed.
saw the movie. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie.
Exactly.
In IMAX.
He should have done that.
We are
It
getting
was
so
all for Jamie
sidetracked.
Dornan.
We're just organically following the show. We're getting sidetracked.
So Blackbeard returned.
I have zero memory of Blackbeard's first appearance. I thought this was them bringing in Blackbeard, and like I saw the actor, and I was
No.
like, I'm supposed to know your name. Because you're a big, like, the actor himself, like, I recognize him, and I'm like, in, like, cinephile circles, I'd probably be shamed for not knowing your name, but hello. I'm gonna have an
Nice to
episode.
meet you.
It proved once again that any other, like, male pairing with Hook for a buddy cop episode is just great. This was Hook and Arthur take the underworld round 2. Like, I was there for the whole episode.
Or it could
Can
just
we have
be
a
Hook and
spin-off?
Blackbeard round
The
2.
buddy
'cause that's what
comedy
it
of
was.
Hook and whoever. The cop
Hook's-
comedy.
Hook's cop comedy.
Yeah. Make it so.
And then that episode ended in Neverland, and I was just...
Yeah.
So, when, like, I've never been excited to see Lost Boys before, because they're so annoying as villains. Like, they're not even just villains. They're
Yeah.
also annoying.
They're basically just a bunch of bratty kids.
Yeah,
running
Yeah.
around the country.
But when I saw them, I was like, oh, we're back.
I wanted, since they were back, I wanted, like, not the shadow that was Hook's shadow, but the shadow that became the evil shadow. I wanted them to come back to that, because they never did explain
They never
that.
did, and we still don't know.
And I really want to, darn it.
Voiced by Marilyn Manson.
For reals?
Yeah, when the Shadow had lines, like, near the end of that season, I remember seeing in the, like, opening credits, it was, like, guest starring Marilyn Manson. I was like,
No way.
what? And then he spoke. I was
Shut
like,
up.
Oh, I feel like I have to
He's
go back
playing
and
the
watch that
person
now.
made of darkness.
Emily
not
is going to
Manson.
verify your claims.
Bring it, son. IMDb has my back.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah, no, I definitely... There's so many... I'd watch so many spin-offs from the show. I'd watch an Arthur in the Underworld spin-off. I'd watch a Neverland spin-off. Like, you don't... As we saw with Wonderland, you don't have to make a show that's going to keep going. You can make a season and then be done. Like we've seen with a lot of these shows coming back, like Heroes, and another example escapes me, but like when they have these isolated stories that they want to tell after it's done. Like Heroes Reborn was written before it was in production. So all of the story came together. They weren't struggling week after week after week. And I feel like season 1 of Once was very much the same thing. I think they knew exactly how that curse was going to break before they even started filming. But it's once you get into the business and the money making of it, when you have these week after week and they have to take this half of the season versus this half. What did people respond to? What do we bring back? Do we throw in Frozen? Apparently, yes, we do. That's, I think, is where a lot of the spirit of the show is
Really
going lost.
hate the Frozen season.
We talked about that ad nauseum. But going... Oh,
Except for
quick,
Chris.
jump in, Emily.
Hashtag confirmed. Marilyn Manson was the shadow in season 3, episode 8. Think lovely thoughts.
Amazing.
But
Good job,
we
Micah.
we talked about this before, how the plan was to continue the anthology / spin-off series of Once Upon a Time in whatever, but because they bombed Wonderland kind of on purpose, they just decided to let it die and not resurrect it.
I mean, I still, and I've said this before, and I'll come back and I'll say it again. I think you've got a combination not only of the network / Disney's interference, but you also have 2 writers from Lost. And I think they have taken the very blueprint they used to write on Lost over to this show. And it doesn't work as well on this show.
I will say, season 6 of this show, a whole lot more satisfying than season 6 of that show.
Yep.
Well, I agree.
But
got a lot
technically,
more.
this is not the last season of this show.
Correct.
So we have to compare it to what's
But
coming.
it seems like it almost might be. What I'm getting from the feel of this, which I know is skipping right to the end, but we've already mentioned the whole Henry and his daughter thing before. Like, that seems to me like a new show.
It is.
Very
That's how I'm
much
gonna
like how
approach it.
season 8 of Scrubs
I'm totally
was the last
approaching it
season
that way.
of Scrubs. But then there was season 9, but it was a different show. I feel like next season we're going to be getting a different show.
Yeah.
And we will talk about that, but there are a couple of big things.
Musical episode.
Well, I was going to get there. I was going to mention first the return of Isaac, the previous author,
Oh, yeah.
and that whole business about Henry going into trances. Any thoughts about that?
Isaac just still annoys me.
Yeah.
I
I don't know. The
whatever.
trances thing was just weird. I think it was just to give Henry something to do.
It was underplayed. Like,
Yeah.
they didn't do enough with it.
No.
He went into, like,
He just
2
made
trances.
he made weird symbols on the paper. Okay.
Which I'm like, so now there's a language that of the authors, like...
Wait, and remind me if they discussed this or not, why he was having those trances. Like, is that... Because I feel like he's been the author for quite some time now. What was the impetus for all of a sudden, like, this component? I don't remember.
It wasn't
I don't
because
remember.
he was getting to the end of the story.
Yeah.
Is that
Isaac
because
gets-
the end of the story? Okay,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember.
Oh, yeah.
And that the more he deviated away from writing in the book, the more he would go into the trances. That just... But the page with all the symbols was very special to the story at hand.
Okay.
I don't know if they satisfactorily explained
They
why.
didn't.
I don't
They
remember
didn't.
exactly
They
what it...
didn't.
I'm pretty sure it got translated at some point.
It
but
did.
I don't remember what it
Yeah, I
said.
don't remember.
I thought that was a little bit too much in a season with a lot already. What about Hook's proposal, both accidental and on purpose?
So cute.
I like the
Yeah, it was very
love
It's always
it.
cute.
I liked it. That's it. There you go.
liked it.
I liked it.
Period.
We got any stamp of approval.
Good.
That was great talking for a podcast. Good job.
We're just getting good at this, that's all.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hedge now. We're going to do 3 main parts. The first part we're going to do is the musical episode. Please grade story, singing, dancing, and general success of execution. Also, Hook and Emma's wedding was the button on that episode. And I didn't put this in the talking points, but please think about other musical episodes of past and rank how well Once Upon a Time did.
I love that they made the characters self-aware of what they were doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved
I-
that.
It's one of the easier ways to tackle this, like we saw with Buffy really
Yeah.
broke the mold on
Yeah.
musical episodes, and that was the same.
Yeah,
similar
I
case.
loved, in this one it made so much sense to have them be self-aware, that they wake up singing, why am I singing? Why is everything rhyming? This doesn't make sense.
I love
It was
that.
perfect.
I don't know how I feel about it being a curse, though. I thought that was kind of like okay. But I liked that they were aware. I liked that they were aware and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I liked that as well, but the episode itself, I was like, okay. I don't know, it just wasn't my favorite episode. But I do like that. Well, I liked it after a time. At first, I was like, this is really campy.
Yeah.
And
That's
then I
the
was like,
thing.
Well,
okay.
'cause I-
Powerful
it-
Magic is my absolute favorite
because
song.
it
of the whole
opened,
thing.
Yeah.
it opened with what Snow
Yeah.
and Charming, so it was very
Yeah.
campy and very funny. And then we had the glam rock Regina,
Which I loved. I actually
That was
loved
pretty
Glam Rock
cool.
Regina.
When she started singing,
She
I
was
was
pretty
like,
awesome.
all right.
I'm here for this.
Yes, I was on board with her. I have to admit that.
And then what?
They were campy, but Snow and Charming were the best singers.
They were.
Well, I was looking up the lyrics and
Campy
trying to
doesn't
find
mean bad,
reliable ones for that song earlier because I'm now learning it. I pretty much haven't learned at this point. That's my personal life. But it was on like just a wiki for once that they had that, and there were some comments at the bottom about like production of it, and apparently it's Josh Dallas, right? And
Yes.
Jennifer
Yeah.
Goodwin. Apparently they were over the top excited to do this episode. So
Yeah, they were.
There probably is just a lot of like unencumberable like enthusiasm bubbling over that made it a little more campy than maybe it needed to be, but I was very pleased. They had a blast doing it.
Well, and I read that the songwriter wrote the songs for their voices.
Yep, he did.
You could tell that. I
He
was
did.
very impressed with the composition for all these songs. Like, Zelina's was another one of the standout ones that I really, really
I like
Yeah.
Jelena's.
Wicked always wins. Of course, that's what it was called. No, she was awesome too. I
was
really
waiting
liked
for the
it.
soundtrack to come out. I would have bought it.
It's already out.
Is it out?
It's on
It's
Spotify.
been out. They released it like a day or two before the episode came out.
It's
Yeah.
probably on iTunes.
She already got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's on Spotify as well.
Nice.
So I put
Yeah.
that on my playlist.
I thought Jennifer Morrison did a good job,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
thought
like
so
it
as
that
well.
they expanded Emma's theme and they wrote it into a song for her. I thought that was really sweet too.
I thought that was cool too.
And
That song wasn't the strongest one there. I wasn't a great fan of that, but Happy Beginning,
Yeah.
she did. It was just, that was
Yeah.
a very like low key, not actually low key, but like mellow melody.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a lot to showcase there, but Happy Beginning, she got to do a lot more.
I do have to say their wedding. That's how my wedding will be exactly replicated like that.
All right, everyone, learn the choreography now.
Start now.
Yeah.
What did you think of the choreography?
I thought it was. I thought
It
it
was
was done
cute.
very
Yeah.
well.
it was cute.
There wasn't. I liked how. I'm going to use the organic word. And I know.
Drink.
Is that a new hashtag?
No.
Yeah,
Hashtag
because you just
organic.
said that they're not organic.
But I know. But I do have to say this episode. What I think I liked the most about it, with it being, is they knew that so many shows have done singing. My personal favorite is How I Met Your Mother.
Trying to remember, they did a full episode. I know they did a lot of numbers throughout the series. I don't remember them
I
doing a
liked it.
specific episode.
Nobody can touch Buffy for me.
I-
Nobody
yeah.
Buffy
can
is
touch
tops.
Buffy's really
Yeah.
good.
I will be a stalwart defender of that 70s Show's musical episode till the day I die because
That's very brave.
it was a
of
lot
you.
of fun.
It was fun, and that's all I'll give it.
Yeah.
That's all they were going for. So I'm fine with it. Honestly, the only musical episode of anything that I've seen, and I'll admit that I was nowhere near caught up to the plotline at that point, but I don't think it makes a difference, that I hated was Grey's Anatomy.
Oh yeah.
That
Grey's
was
Anatomy.
horrible.
What? They did a musical episode?
They did.
It
Why?
was covers.
No,
it
they've
wasn't
done.
even original.
They've done
No.
Two.
They've done.
What?
They did one pre-shooting, and then they did one after the second plane crash
Oh,
because they
yeah,
all
that's
had
right.
amnesia.
That's right.
For those of you listening who were caught up on once but aren't caught up on Grey's Anatomy, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's one of that. I'm with you. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, kids. So
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Why?
the first, I didn't see a second one. The first one was so horrible, and of course, I jumped the shark on that show. I can't even.
Scrubs
That's the
had
worst.
a very strong musical episode. It's one of the best ever. That's like, I think, at number 2 for me.
I haven't watched all the way through Scrubs yet.
It's okay.
Okay.
You can at least just watch the episode. It's kind of self-contained.
I have watched some of the episodes. A person that we all know well and love, Bart Sumner, is one of the guest stars on one of the episodes.
Yeah, he
Oh, that's
actually
funny.
I
sings.
think it's season 2.
Season. Yeah, he's like the premiere of. I don't remember. I watched
He's a
it.
patient, and he's the one that sings, "I can do anything for love." So, musical episode, generally, everyone liked it. Amie was kind of lukewarm.
Well, I mean, I like some parts of it, but I didn't like some of the campiness. But you know, the discussion kind of convinced me otherwise. I'll give it a second chance. I don't mind.
I mean, yeah, it was. To me, it wasn't the greatest either, but for what they were going for, I thought they did a good job.
Yeah.
And the plot, like its relevance to the actual plot of the season, I think
that's the
well.
reason
It
why
did.
I liked it so much. Once does this a lot. Like, I thought the musical episode was going to be a whole new introduction of all this stuff, but it was just a continuation of the season and where they were at. And
Which they then continued again into the final battle.
Correct.
Because Emma's song, the song that was in her heart, came back into use for her. So now let's talk about the final battle. This is part 2 of the 3 things we have to talk about. We're going to leave aside the epilogue and Henry.
Yes.
And Lucy, the little girl that appears in and out of these couple of episodes.
And is adorable.
Okay.
Let the record show.
Let the record show she is adorable. The final battle. This is the 2-part finale. It aired on the Sunday in a 2-part situation. The whole essential point of it is that Fiona, a.k.a. the Black Fairy, a.k.a. Rumpelstiltskin's mother, recasts the original Once curse and puts everybody into amnesia except for Snow, Charming, Regina Prime, Zelina, and Hook are all sent back to the Enchanted Forest. As we mentioned earlier, they land in Snow and Charming's castle at the point right after their wedding day, right? And the whole purpose of it is Emma is in an institution for the mentally ill and is being treated by Dr. Hopper and is being convinced here again that all of the characters in the storybook are not real. Henry is sentient. He's awake. He's back to where he was when the show started. And they gave us a lovely little flashback of Tiny Henry to juxtapose against not Tiny Henry.
Yeah.
With soon to be even less tiny Henry.
Yes. Foreshadowing, Micah.
3 Henrys.
So his whole purpose these 2 episodes is to convince his mom that she has to believe again. Because if the Savior does not believe, the storybook worlds as we know it poof out of existence. AKA the nothing.
Because the whole point, it's the Black Fairy and the Savior are battling for the Savior's soul.
Yes.
Light and dark.
This is the battle, the last big climactic piece of the Once Upon a Time story. What did we think about the final battle?
I was a fan of Henry's role in, well, first of all, I'm glad they divided it into the escape the mental asylum part was confined to the one half,
yes,
and the rest of the half was resolving just our regular plotline. But I liked Henry's role in the amnesia curse because, once again, harking back to the strength of season 3 in the Neverland arc, where the first value that they established upon Henry's character was that he has the heart of the truest believer. And we got to see a little bit of that when he turned a fountain into a real wishing well in the middle of that crowded square. Which was super great. And then we have this, of course, the curse. A curse that attacks belief is not going to be able to touch him. So I was glad that was his role in that world. But I felt bad because one of his moms is gone, and now he has this just horrible person for, at least with Regina.
Because Fiona's posing as his other mother and in place of Regina.
Literally just took her place. Mm-hmm. But no, I really appreciated his value to that, and kind of how that, bonded in their destiny, because we have this whole power structure of the Black Fairy and Peter Pan gave birth to Rumpelstiltskin, who along with the miller's daughter is now establishing magical bloodlines to these people. But then even from Emma he is now he has a thing. So it was a nice tying in of Henry and Emma's destinies together as well.
I really liked it. I felt this is probably one of the strongest season finales from Once we've had in quite a while. Yeah. I'm not going to go into it, but I felt if the scenes with adult Henry and Lucy were not included, this would have been a very strong series.
It would have.
Finale.
They
treated it like one.
They treated it like a series finale, I agree. And I think that they needed to. They didn't know, I think, super early if the show was going to be picked up for a season 7.
No, the renewal announcement came very late. Because they were in contract negotiations with the regulars, all of the regulars that are departing.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And then Jennifer Morrison made the announcement
that she's done.
Yeah.
Yep. And so
which she did on House, by the way.
Yep.
Continue.
So I think, I almost wish that this was the series finale in a sense, and it is in a sense, but I really wish they would have stopped it here.
It would have been.
I would have been very content.
I would have been very content if this was done for Once Upon a Time. For good. Well, not to say for good, because revivals are still a thing. But I would be very content if this was it.
Yes.
I felt it was very strong. I just loved it.
I agree with you. I think this would have been a great way to end what we know as Once Upon a Time now, and if they wanted to continue, I think we should have brought back what they did with Wonderland, and then started clearing up those ties that people that have been with Once the whole run.
Just start fresh.
Well, there's just so many things still that are like haven't been tied up, and I think having little mini shows instead of continuing once how it is, because I mean they're obviously starting all over again, so they might as well start over with stuff that we already know instead of changing the story 100%.
Well, because right now the loose ends that they did not tie up with the characters that we've known up until this point, they are not going to get tied up. They are leaving this universe as it is, with the exception of the 4 people, like Henry. Well, I'm including Henry because his character is carrying over.
Well, and Jared S. Gilmore is going to appear in flashback scenes.
So is Emma, correct?
Only 1 episode.
Only 1 episode for J-Mo.
That's all she said. She's like, I will be 1 episode, wherever they want to use me. Henry.
Okay.
Henry that we've known so far.
Yep. They're gonna start. This is kind of getting ahead. Sorry, Kylie. But they're starting season 7 with Jared playing Henry, younger Henry, to show why he had to leave and what his journey was like. They're going to set it up and then move forward from there.
We are kind of segueing. So first I don't know if anybody else wanted to talk about Final Battle. I agree with what has been said. I thought these 2 episodes were the strongest of the entire season 6.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I thought that the finale as a season would have been a great series finale. I felt that the sprinklings of the what's to come actually detracted from it a little bit. And I also felt that I feel exactly everything that Kristen just said, and maybe Eddie, and maybe everybody, I don't know. I'm kind of at the point in my heart where I wish this had been the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know if I can, and I said that's full circle to what I said from the very first when we were going over the characters. I don't know if I'm ready and or willing. I will for the podcast. I will for the panel. But to get into a whole new show, which is literally a whole new show. I mean, they've done that before. It's called a spin-off. Mm-hmm. You can have characters from the previous incarnation, such as Frasier had characters from Cheers.
I think Frasier actually had 1 more season than Cheers did.
Yeah, it was a stronger
2
show.
more,
Yeah,
I think. Because I think they had 13.
They did.
And Cheers had 11. So they went on for... They're an exception. Not all spin-offs are like that. But Joey.
Yeah. From Friends. Joey barely lasted a season.
Yeah, so they didn't have time to bring any of the other friends on.
Mm-hmm.
But there are other spin-offs that have brought in original characters. That's basically what we're talking about. It's a spin-off. It's got a whole brand new cast, but for 3 or 4 people.
They're trying to make Degrassi the next generation without letting everybody age for like 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Very, very nice way to put that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if... I honestly don't... They're going to have to come out of the gate with something incredible for this to work.
Yeah. I would have been happy if they wanted to even lead this as a series finale with the final scene being Lucy going to Henry and 10 years later or whatever it is. If they would have cut out the scenes of the 2 of them, which were very confusing, in the Enchanted Forest or wherever they are, which we'll find out, that made no sense.
No.
They could have just waited till the very, very, very end, had the open the door moment and just left it, and I still would have been happy with that as a series finale.
Because that like gives you, we had the resolution of everything else, but the story goes on
it
with that same
continues.
parallel of like the first episode.
Exactly.
Never-ending story. There you go.
Exactly.
He just got on the damn luck dragon and made the wishes.
Yep.
And that's kind of where I'm at. So now let's segue. This is the natural segue point.
One quick thing. I liked
Or
how...
not.
Sorry. No. The
Jump back a little
segues, because in Lucy's storybook, the picture that she's looking at on the subway is all of them, the original cast, all at dinner together. So they're
In the formation of the last...
I don't know what I thought about that.
I didn't like that, but...
I was like, oh.
I agree with you.
I don't feel I don't feel comfortable with that.
I thought it was...
I'm not religious. I don't feel comfortable.
I don't like that it was
like
the Last Supper either,
weird.
but I liked... It was interesting how they're now their characters in her storybook. And I think that's what we're going to figure out is why are they in the storybook.
Here's that word again, potential.
Hashtag potential drink.
Hashtag potential. I think that the way they set this up, it could turn into something really cool that kind of not only supplements what we know from this essentially original series, but also like maybe they're going to take bits and pieces that we didn't finish, like Maleficent. Maybe Maleficent will be finally her story could be resolved.
Hashtag optimism.
You know what though? I'm with Emily though. I'm optimistic.
I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, I was excited when I saw that they were kind of taking a dive and doing something hopefully new.
I'm almost hoping this is like super optimistic. This is like, you're probably crazy right now. I'm almost hoping that part of the reason that they left some of these things open-ended, that we didn't know this, is because they were planning this, and that they're going to say, okay, here we go, this is how we're going to like actually tie up this storyline, because it could be cool that they delve into like Emma doing something and then they show how like so-and-so's storyline closes up because through the original cast.
That is really optimistic.
As a person who agrees.
No, I'm optimistic that it'll be exciting and different, but if the original cast says they'll only do an X amount of episodes or appearances, how much of that time are they going to dedicate to wrapping up these peripheral characters?
Yeah.
But I do think it's going to be exciting, at least interesting, maybe.
I mean, because they've already said that they, being the producers, they're going to give us updates on where the characters are, even if they don't appear. So we'll find out if Hook and Emma, if they grew their family. Mm-hmm. We're gonna find out what happened to the Charmings. They'll be mentioned even if they won't be seen.
Maybe Neil will finally be grown up and he'll be.
Well, at least we finally saw him in the end. They're gonna raise him on the farm there.
Yeah, they have a pumpkin
he's still
farm
an
or whatever.
infant.
Yeah.
Like how? How's he
He's
still
been
an
an
infant?
infant for like the last 3 seasons.
Time moves very slowly in Storybrooke, even when it's moving.
Well, because it was when the Frozen arc was happening. They, in one interview, they had asked, so have the characters, do they know that the Frozen movie exists? Mm-hmm. And the producers and, the creators, they said no. In our timeline, the Frozen movie hasn't come out yet.
Okay.
So their timeline is totally separate from our current reality.
I think I remember, though, someone talking about the Wizard of Oz in the show. Part of the continuity, like the movies did come out in the 30s. And like Henry knows about it, but like
that would still be theoretically pre when this.
It is,
starts.
because they referenced Mulan to like Mulan like the movie,
okay,
and then they even asked like what's the movie, that's happened. But so when the Frozen arc happened, at least it wasn't November of 2013 yet or whenever.
Yeah.
Frozen came out.
Gotcha. I'm not against this new revamp for the show. I think it can be good. I'm just bothered, like you were, about the placement in that last, or maybe it was you, maybe it was all of us, about that in the last episode, because it's very rare when you have a show that's been on this long to get a good ending. It's also very rare for a show that has been shaky in its plot to get a good ending, and this show has been both for the past couple years. Yeah. So this, I'm honestly very, very impressed with the writing team about the ending of that episode that we did get, and how satisfying that it actually was. So I'm mad that didn't get to be the cathartic moment that it could have been, because now it's just like, all right,
there's a lot of apprehension.
And to piggyback on that, because we've mentioned #potential drink, that they have not capitalized on up until now. Arguably, some of it has been capitalized on with this very tight finale, but between the potential that they haven't really used and the fact that I've watched the previous show this writing team worked on where the same thing happened, I have huge trust issues going into this 7th season. Yeah. I don't care how innovative this idea is. Execution's not their strong suit.
No.
Go ahead, I'll segue into something else.
I think my biggest thing with the whole reboot that I'm afraid of is that the show is very classic for not doing things that are new. As we talked about, the Black Fairy is like one of the first new things that they've done. Mm-hmm. If it comes back that she was adopted and she was raised by somebody else and it's the whole Emma Henry thing again, I'm going to have to leave it alone. And that's what they do. They like to read you things over and over and over again. And that's what I'm afraid of, because I will agree, #potential drink, that the potential is huge with this. I'm kind of on the opposite end. I wish we would have met her sooner.
Lucy?
Yes. I wish we would have met her sooner so that we just don't see this little girl walking down the hallway, boom, I'm your daughter, and then it's over. I mean, and I don't know where we could have met her sooner. I mean, or maybe we'll learn that we have met her sooner and we just didn't know it.
There is that. They do that a lot.
They do that a lot. And she's probably already an adult somewhere trying to kill somebody. So, I mean, she could be Moana. I'm not going to lie. When she walked down the hallway,
There's rapid rumors.
I was like,
she's an adorable little.
I was gonna say,
brown
I was
girl.
just went back and reread the messages that Kristen and I had back and forth after I watched it, and Kristen goes, maybe her mom is Moana.
Yeah,
So.
but that has been disputed. At the time of this recording, this past weekend was the D23 Expo over in Anaheim. It happens every 2 years. It's a big expo of the Disney company, and they give all these little presentations. And one of the nuggets that they decided to drop here for their television and movie panel, and not as part of Comic-Con, which is coming up again like in a week or two at
San Diego.
Yeah, thank you. As of the time of this recording, they announced who Lucy's mom is and who Henry's great love is, and what they're going to be doing with next season. So one of the new actresses that they've cast for the show, who will be playing Lucy's mom and Henry's love, is her character is Cinderella.
Oh, that's right. I
So
just
yes,
saw that.
we've
But not the Cinderella played by Jessie Schramm.
Correct.
In seasons 1, 2, and
Correct.
whatever else she appeared in.
exactly, and so they're
5B.
right. So they're revisiting a new Cinderella, and they said, well, you know, Henry is the grandson of a Prince Charming, and Prince Charming shows up in multiple different fairy tales, whether it's the same guy or not. And from my perspective, having an English literature background, there are versions of Cinderella in every single culture on this planet. Almost every single one has a Cinderella story. And so I think they're probably taking that note, and, you know, we're going to meet a new Cinderella. Yeah, she has the same name, but it's not going to be the classic Cinderella that we know, who made appearances as Ashley earlier on.
There was a lot of justification and explanation in that. They're going to have to do that in the show.
They are going to.
Yep.
And well, part of that is the author saying this is a new version of Cinderella. We are going to take the characters, once again, that we may have already seen and give them another spin. So we may see Sleeping Beauty again. We may see other classic characters again, and they'll be presented in a new way.
Now, a little
again, going back to what I said, they like to use things over and over
They
and
do.
over.
Well, and for me, it's kind of interesting. Again, I'm a Disney nerd. Snow White was the very first Disney princess, and she was in the very first iteration of the show. Cinderella was second. So from the Disney timeline, I can see why they're choosing Cinderella to be Henry's great epic love, and we're going to learn about their great epic love, just like we learned about Snow White and Prince Charming's great epic love. That's the words that they're using. So it'll be interesting to see how they make her different, because they made Snow White quite different, and I liked the changes that they made to Snow White's character. So we'll see how this new Cinderella
Yes, but
plays
that was
out.
back when the idea was fresh, and it hit
Now
us
it's
all
not.
with great surprise and great twist.
Yeah.
Now we've been through 6 seasons of this show of varying degrees of quality and storytelling execution success, and I frankly, when you sent this article out to the chat panel, because of course if you haven't listened, we have chat panels.
we do.
Sent this article out to the chat panel, and I read it, and I was like, really?
Yep. I wasn't.
That made my heart sink.
Yeah.
rather than
I
get
wasn't
excited.
enthused, but
Yeah.
Well, see, my thing about it, now remembering that I already read this article, was that in this original Once Upon a Time, in the first season, didn't Cinderella have a baby?
she did.
And then we never saw this child ever again.
Well, it was a boy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I
We
don't
saw
remember
her
anything.
again.
We saw her.
We saw her and her husband, and briefly the baby.
Yeah.
And I don't think his name was Charming.
It was Sean.
Sean.
It was Sean.
Prince Sean.
Yeah.
That's a terrible name for a prince.
Yeah.
Sorry if there's a prince out there named Sean.
It was Ashley and Sean were their Storybook names, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to
Before
say
I
that
heard.
that would be interesting. It would have been more interesting to me
If it was their descendant.
If it had been. But
Yeah, so we'll see, because they're going to explain it. They have to. They have to explain why we're seeing a character that we've already seen.
Well, I mean, they kind of did that. I mean, in the Disney realm itself, is that they had, like, the original Cinderella movie, and then they just redid it and did that whole new movie.
The live action version?
Yeah, the live action, and it
changed
pulled a lot
her story.
from the, I would say it pulled a lot from the original movie that we knew, but then it also changed a lot because there was the fact that her name was just Ella, and then they were like, oh, you have Cinder's, like, oh, Cinderella, ha ha ha. So I kind of see why they, again, would choose that, because Disney already technically has 2 Cinderella stories.
Well, because they also, for the live action, they pulled in some of the original written Cinderella stories from
exactly.
around the world, too.
Before I forget, there were a couple of Easter eggs that I just caught in that last episode. Well, the end of the musical episode and the final one. The final one is a little more simple. The apartment number that Lucy goes to for Henry is 815.
Thank you very
Lost,
much.
which is
Another
the same
lost
time
reference.
that the clock was set to when Emma first arrived in Storybrooke, and then it moved to 816.
Well, on
when she
page
decided to stay.
23 is one of the 6 numbers,
It
too.
is. Yeah.
6 numbers feature quite prominently.
Yeah, they give lots of lost Easter eggs throughout the
But
series.
the other one, and like it can't be a coincidence. There's no way. In the vows that Hook and Emma say to each other, in like the first couple of lines of Hook's, he says, "A heart full of love," and that phrase will always make me go, like, oh, Les Mis. That's the thing. But then in her vows, in the first couple of lines, she uses the phrase "on my own." And while these are regular phrases that could coexist independently, for both of them to happen in these wedding vows in the musical episode, there's no way. I almost want to rewatch it again and just comb the whole episode for different references, but I don't.
No, I think they did that.
I caught that in hers too, actually,
I can't remember any of them while I'm sitting here, but I do think other than the 2
there were a few.
There were a few dropped references to musicals.
Yeah.
And I think they even said that too, like, hey, like, keep your eye out, we have some references, or here's things that influenced us with the songs or something.
And I mean, like, just the episode being called whatever, something about Wicked, like, obviously.
Pretty much gone to like a good wrap-up point, but my roommate Jessica is a big Wicked fan, and at the end of A Happy Beginning, when the clock tower is striking and there's those minor chords happening in concert with that, also very much like a Wicked feel to it.
Yeah.
I messaged in the chat panel earlier that the resolution of the final battle didn't really work for me, and I think we gotta address that, because what? Okay.
Even though you loved the episode, you have a problem with how it was resolved. The battle, honestly, not the episode.
It was more like the resolution for all the characters with that nice, like, instrumental montage. That was great, but the battle itself, like literally the end of the battle, which for the listeners, just to remind you, is that Rumpelstiltskin found Gideon's heart and was considering, like, doing what he could to break the curse, and we had a nice little back and forth between Mr. Gold and the Rumpel of old, who was always fun to see. And at the same time, Gideon and Emma, who has now regained her memories and saved the realms from being destroyed, and they've all come back magically, is fighting Gideon sword to sword, and she decides to let him stab her, essentially sacrificing her life. But instead of dying, the wound glows white light, and then everything's fine. And the only theory that I've been able to come up with that is somewhat salient for how this works is that Henry, I think this was the translation of the pages. Or no, it was the final sentence that he wrote in the book, which was, when good and evil became balanced, or I'm paraphrasing, when good and evil became balanced, then, or like, when good and evil both did the right thing, balance was restored. And my only interpretation of that makes any sense for me is that Emma did the non-selfish thing of sacrificing her life for Gideon's, for not even to save all the realms, just to save this one soul, which in some context you can consider as a more selfless act to just save one person. And Rumpel, who could have let Gideon continue on and be evil, decided to try and save his heart. It did not work, but he tried to do it. So I'm thinking that the Savior and the Dark One, as we've seen, are somewhat tied together as the embodiments of good and evil, and I'm guessing that when they both did those right things, that's what made it happen. But the fact that I had to do all that work means they did not write it as well as they could have.
No. They said it.
Did they?
They did explain, and In kind of the same way that you just explained, only maybe a little shorter and maybe a little too flyby, which is why you didn't catch it. It was basically the idea that good and evil both chose to do good in one moment.
Okay.
And that's what protected Emma. It's the only reason she didn't die. Emma didn't know she wasn't going to die. Nobody knew what Rumpel was doing, but when Rumpel came back up out of wherever the heart was being kept and rejoined everybody else, and when Emma was alive and they were shocked and, oh, she's alive, no, well, what happened? So he kind of explained that. The blue fairy is the one that explains it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was just...
But then, and also, too, with Emma's wound glowing white and balance is restored, we get baby Gideon back,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
We can't forget about that. So
Which felt very...
Convenient?
Well, no, I was going to go Star Wars prequels on that one.
Yeah.
I was thinking, are we getting midichlorians out of this now?
Yeah,
So-
but now they have the chance to do the right thing by Gideon.
They
But
did.
oops, Rumpel's not there anymore because he's going to be in this new show.
I just read the log line for the new show, going back to that a minute, because it's actually very interesting. It says, after 6 seasons, the residents of the Enchanted Forest face their greatest challenge yet as the evil queen, Captain Hook, and Rumpelstiltskin join forces with a grown-up Henry Mills and his daughter Lucy on an epic quest to once again bring hope to their world and ours. Along the way, new fairy tale characters and old search for true love, find adventure, and once again take sides in the struggle for good against evil, as classic tales are once more twisted and reimagined. So that's like their
So that's Once Upon a Time Redux.
Yeah. So here we go again.
Right.
Can we get some smaller arcs, please? Like, a lot of these season arcs have all been factoring, and as we saw in this season, they retconned what they had to retcon to make sure that everything we've seen has been leading up to this point, that all of this was just one big book. And I appreciate that in the physicality of the book. But as a TV show, it helps if you just take a break from grand plots and have just like, we need to solve this problem because this is a problem right now. Like, we're just one little
More
fantasy...
like chapters.
Yeah. That'd be nice.
Actually, that would be great.
Yeah, I was going to say, here's more information. I'm just reading that article that you shared a while ago because they keep updating it and everything. It says, after seemingly leaving home to find his own story, Henry went missing after facing the darkness. His daughter Lucy subsequently tracked him down to the real world, saying that his family needed help. Obviously, this will be part and parcel as to why many of the characters are MIA next year, but the fact that Morrison is returning for just one episode has some fans fearing that Emma will die. With his family missing, Henry must step up as the new hero. He's still the author, bringing us into new worlds where we will meet new characters, all of whom are so far being kept under wraps. The once bosses do plan to branch out from the fairy tales we've already seen, adding new regular characters in the process.
There's a lot of build-up.
Yeah.
And I think it's because everybody's got the same skepticism that we're talking about right now.
Yep.
And I think the more they build it up,
The bigger they're going to fail.
pretty much.
It's like the new ride I just rode at Cedar Point.
In Sandusky,
Big
Ohio.
build-up.
Hello, Sandusky.
Thanks, Sandusky, Ohio. I rode the Valraven. There's a big, huge lead up, and then you drop off a 90-degree angle.
Good for a roller coaster, not for a TV show.
TV show.
I really hope Once doesn't get canceled after season 7A if they can't go any farther.
Yeah.
Because we're already moving to Death Trap.
But it won't get, you mean, canceled for the next season? Because they're automatically guaranteed a whole 7th season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we'll just find out if they get canceled after season
Yeah.
7.
We'll find out if they get a season 8 or not, basically.
Yeah.
Hey, if the end seems near and they've only got a few episodes, do another musical episode. Next time, bring us to the realm of Gallivant. 'Cause
I would be on board with that crossover.
Me too.
That would be
I
awesome.
love
Although they
Gallivant.
have to explain away how Princess Jasmine looks like Princess Isabella.
Twins!
Cousins!
Distant cousins!
Oh, they'll figure it out. They can always,
Yep.
But I'd be okay with that. The thing that I should mention prior to me asking the $1 million question of today's panel is that Once Upon a Time, though it is renewed for season 7, will be moving to Fridays
Yes.
on ABC's schedule. So even though it's been on Sunday at 8 o'clock
For its
since
entire run.
it's now moving to Fridays, being paired with the 2 Marvel ABC shows, They're premiering Marvel Inhumans, which is essentially a spin-off of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then they're going to pair it with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Because apparently, according to the new head of ABC, fans have been asking for the two shows to be paired together for the longest time.
Nobody's been asking
Nobody has been asking that.
Right,
There's
because
no Marvel Once Upon a Time things.
No.
And Fridays are the death slots. Who's
They
going
are.
to be sitting at home watching TV on Friday night? They're out.
Right.
They're out on dates. They're out hanging out with their friends. They're out seeing movies.
And if they
They're
are
not
watching TV, they're watching Netflix.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, the only thing that may help the show and what a lot of networks are taking into consideration is not only the live numbers, but then the DVR numbers or the Hulu numbers. You
Yeah, the
know,
streaming numbers
with
as
the
well.
first 7 days after air, they're taking that into consideration for their ratings now. But still,
That's true.
Fridays are the death trap. Ever since they killed TGIF, because people started leaving their house more because they had DVRs,
Yep.
Friday nights are where shows go to die on network television.
Yep. It's Thursday nights. Thursday nights are the nights to have a TV show. I mean, look at like ABC has the TGIT.
They've rebranded it. It's all the Shonda shows.
Yep, it's all.
And then
that.
NBC has Tuesdays with This Is Us. That's their ratings juggernaut. So
Yeah.
ABC is not putting anything strong up against This Is Us because it'll fail.
Which is fine. I understand
Yeah.
that. And I understand them not putting it on Thursday because Sunday was really.
It was strong. It was doing well.
perfect.
It was a good
Time.
day for it.
Well, it's a family slot, as
Yeah.
Kristen has mentioned multiple times on this
Yeah.
podcast panel.
Yeah.
I mean,
Plus, people are generally, no matter what your life is, our society still operates around the weekend, and almost everybody's home on Sunday nights, and
night.
almost
Yeah.
everybody's bored. As we speak, Game
This
of
is-
Thrones
yes.
is descending upon the masses, and I will
It's
not be able to
Thrones
watch
Day.
it until
It's
tomorrow.
We're recording this on Thrones Day, listeners.
Oh.
maybe
I'll be
because they
joining
are
that
moving
club
it
soon.
to a Friday, they're straying a little bit from the family aspect of it because Sundays
They
are.
maybe they're taking the show darker.
Yeah, it could be, which is okay.
Yeah.
I
don't
think I think that they renewed. I think they renewed it because it is a ratings juggernaut. I have a possible theory. One is very cynical and one is less cynical, but ascribes a lot of incompetence to this network runner. The dark one is that somebody at ABC no longer likes the show and is determined to kill it off.
Yeah.
The other one is this network runner thinks she knows things, and even though she has a ratings juggernaut and she knows that people are watching it and it's still getting ad revenue dollars. I mean, that's the other thing. Sunday nights at 8 is a prime advertising slot, so Thursday might be a desirable day for some networks, but Sunday is typically an all-around. We put things on Sundays because people are, like Micah said, at home watching TV.
Yeah.
But they're replacing it with like Shark Tank. That's what's going into the Once Upon a Time
No,
slot.
remember, it's the resurrection of American Idol.
Oh,
She says
damn it. The worst idea ever.
Literally,
That's just like
the worst.
Yeah, like,
idea.
you watch the first
Nobody wants American Idol
I was
back.
gonna say, new
no
ABC
one.
showrunner. If
Once
you're
Upon a
listening,
Time
or
in
network
Candyland
runner.
is a better idea than American Idol round 2.
I was gonna say I'd rather watch like a Monopoly TV show or something. Like, come on, like it could
That would be
cool.
the longest TV show
They
ever.
build an actual neighborhood in
Yeah.
4 streets.
Take
and real rich
48
people
hours to
play
play
it.
it.
But either way, they're
Lots of
replacing
friendships lost.
Once Upon a Time on Sunday with more reality television because that's what we need.
No, it's
And a
not.
singing competition. We haven't had enough of them yet.
No.
No,
The Voice is
especially
still going
American
strong.
The
Idol.
Voice is better than American
Voice is-
Idol.
The
Yeah,
Voice
Voice
is
is
good.
good.
American Idol sucks. Kill it.
Yeah.
Even X Factor is better than American
And
Idol because it
America's
didn't have
Got
the age
Talent.
restraints, so we got to see a lot of very young stars. Like One Direction came from X Factor, the
Exactly.
And
British
whatever
version.
one Simon is on now. They
He's
have
on
the
The
Voice.
The X Factor.
Oh,
in
X Factor
Britain.
X.
Is he back on that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know.
He's not on the American.
I don't watch these. Reality need not apply.
Didn't
Yeah.
they I was gonna say
Hashtag.
they just announced their judges for American Idol,
Yeah.
didn't they? And they're like really horrible people.
Like Katy Perry's the only
Oh,
one I remember.
That's the only one I know.
They're-
Which sucks
Oh.
The
because
Queen
they
of
love
Auto
Katy
Tune
Perry.
is a judge of other people singing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Thumbs down.
And Ryan Seacrest is back because he's not working enough jobs.
No.
Well, I don't know how they'd make it successful without him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's really half the show.
Yeah. But still, bad idea, ABC.
Hold on, let's see. It
But-
says Katy Perry, Jennifer Hudson.
Yeah.
Well, she can sing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, because she's also a former winner.
No, that was
She
just the
didn't
title.
win.
I don't know if
She
it's
didn't win.
actually.
No.
Yeah, was she a runner-up?
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, guys.
She got kicked off, and then she got the judge's save, and then she got kicked off 2 episodes after.
But then she got Dreamgirls.
And then she won the Oscar. So it's
Okay, I could be wrong because that was just a snippet of.
maybe she's in talks. We'll
Yeah.
find out, but we're not going to watch it anyway. So
This is
True.
yeah, but no, bad idea.
I guess we'll find out when we
I
find
kept
out.
reading that article. This is the season
Emily's
premiere
on.
title is called Hyperion Heights,
I saw
which
that.
sounds
I saw
like
that.
the name of a new town at the center of the story, since
It is.
Storybrooke will not play a major role moving
Hyperion
forward.
Heights.
It's a neighborhood.
It's
in
either the
Seattle.
neighborhood or it's his apartment building.
Yeah.
And the name Hyperion has been in the Disney vernacular for many, 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 many years.
Mm-hmm.
So they're calling back a Disney name for that too. Because synergy's a thing.
It's Greek mythology.
Yeah,
I'm Googling it.
yeah.
Let's not talk about Greek mythology and how
No.
underutilized it was in the show. You don't bring it in and then just dip your toe. Hades was the only character from the Disney Greek, and once you open the Hercules door, you can use any Greek mythology that you'd like to, just give it a Disney spin. The only one that we saw prolonged, and honestly, not a big fan of that actor, so I wasn't a big fan of seeing him a lot. But our Zeus was literally looked like somebody that was walking on a lot, and they were like, "Hey, you come here, you're going to film something for us." And they cast him.
Yeah.
Meg didn't exist. Hercules existed barely. Cast well. I liked the guy. He was a likable guy. But just thrown away completely. And it was like, they could have done so much.
They could have brought the Pointer Sisters back, because that was my favorite part of that movie. But anyway.
And they could have casted me, and I would have went full dread. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what auditions are for. $1 million question. And normally it's not $1 million question.
I feel like we should dim the lights.
No.
$1 million question. And actually it's a 2-parter and everybody has to answer individually. So don't all go blah. You all have to say it. Are you going to keep watching into season 7? As of this point, would you recommend the show to others? Why or why not? Whoever wants to start.
This is Amie, and I will continue to watch it because, as I said earlier, it piqued my interest. I'm curious. At the very least, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with this next season and where they're going to take it, and I'm rooting for it. I'm hoping it's successful. That being said, I don't know that I can recommend this show because it's all over the place. It's not a show you can jump into. And I think whoever would really, if they're interested in seeing the show, they're going to have to really put in the time from season 1 and stick through it. And I personally don't know anybody who's willing to put in that time that we've put in over the past couple of years. So, several years. That's my answer.
I'll go next. This is Kristen. I echo Amy's sentiments 100%. You know, as I've said before, I'm kind of the resident fairy tale retelling lover. So I will be here for season 7. I have very high hopes for it, but I am watching very apprehensively. I'm expecting it to fail. I don't want it to fail, but I am expecting it to fail. Like Amie said, I would recommend this to somebody, but they have to love fairy tale retellings, and they have to just be able to push through the difficult parts, like the Frozen arc. That's what I tell people still when they say, is it worth it to start it up again? I have said, yeah, it is, but you have to push through Frozen. I'm sorry, but you do. But like Amie said as well, there's not a lot of people are willing to push through 6 seasons if it's not Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones hasn't faltered. Once upon a time
other
has.
shows that
There are other shows, but I'm just saying, you know,
yeah.
they're more likely to.
I was going to say Supernatural.
Yeah,
Should have ended,
Sure.
should have ended, what?
Yep.
We have a podcast for that.
Yeah,
I'll put you on the wait list.
They will. I think the people I recommend it to will have to have a love of fairy tales or a very strong love of Disney to push through it. I would be very selective about who I recommend it to, knowing the pitfalls. But the payoff at the end of season 6 is very good, and it's worth it for someone who maybe started to pick back up and finish strong.
It's Emily. I am definitely going to keep watching more out of curiosity than anything. Like Kristen said, I'm kind of expecting it to fail. I'm hoping it has #potential drink. I don't have a lot of hope for it at this point. especially after reading more and finding out more from Kristen and just hearing more about it, I'm not very hopeful for it. I would recommend it to people, like Kristen said, that are willing to put in the time for it. I think it's definitely a show that I would just wait to watch it when it's on Netflix, so you can. I think it's a show that's easier to binge just because it has so much going on in it that for me, I binge watched it, and it was a lot easier to follow a lot of the storylines binge watching it than it has been watching it on live television, because the weeks between you're like, oh, I forgot that it even happened, because there is so much going on. So I would recommend it to somebody that's like, I am homesick for a while, what should I watch on Netflix? I'd be like, well, if you like Disney, watch Once Upon a Time.
This is Micah, and I will keep watching, mainly because it's such a drastic change up, and I just really want to see how they fill in that gap. I will do what I can to watch it consistently. Like, there are a lot of shows that I usually, like, every time there's a new episode, the next day it's on streaming, so I'm watching that. But it's how I think it happened with either 5B or 6A, where I watched a few of the episodes, then I pretty much just let the season go by until Kylie sent out an email, and then I was like, crap! And so I watched the rest of that, which that could very well happen with this new season, because, well, we are only talking about once. All of us watch a lot of stuff, and I have a lot of stuff coming back strong in the fall. Now, as far as recommendations, I'll absolutely recommend that someone start the show, because I do think if the first 3 seasons don't grab someone, that's either a complete disconnect in just their personal fiction aesthetic, or they weren't putting in the minimum amount of effort required to enjoy the show, because those 3 seasons are a whole lot tighter, they flow easier, and they'll pick, if you're willing to go, they will take you with them. Frozen is a coming-of-age challenge for everyone's family. I can't help them, no one can help them, but you can't skip it, because annoyingly enough, important plot things happened in that season, so you can't just skip it, unless you're one of those people that can just skip things.
So let me tell you
it's
what,
just
Emma gets her powers, she discovers them, there you go.
better ice cream.
Boom, that's it.
So
Go
like
to 6.
that's a challenge that everybody that I would recommend the show to just has to go on, and that's the colander. The people who make it through that, I think, can easily get through the remaining 2 seasons. If we survive Frozen, we can watch anything, no matter how bad this season is. My friends, I tell you, we have been through worse. We will overcome.
We're going to start marching. This is Eddie. What?
It sounded like you're like, this is Eddie.
Maybe that's my name.
I
I'm thinking
think
of
that's my
changing.
name. No, I'm going to keep watching, only because I've put the work in. And
They owe you.
they do. I remember the first time I watched season 1 on TV, and I was this little excited. I was so excited that there was a show that I was about to fall in love with again. I've loved the show. I mean, even though we complain about Frozen a lot, I mean, it's still a show that I love. It's one of the few shows that even though I've watched a lot of TV shows, it's one of the few shows that I've stayed consistent with over the years, and I have to stay consistent with it. However, at this time, I don't think I would recommend it to anyone. And the only reason why I say I wouldn't recommend it to anyone, but I want to piggyback off of what Kristen and Amie both said, is that if it's somebody that has started watching the show and it just got very complex for me, go back. Just go back to it. I won't even tell you Frozen's horrible. Just go back to it. However, for somebody that's never seen the show, that's never watched it, I don't think I can recommend the show until it's done. Because it's one of those shows where you need to keep watching it because you want it to end. And I think, and unfortunately, that's where I'm at. I love this podcast, I love this show, but I'm ready for once to end. It's just watching this season, it was just so difficult with all the other good television that there is, and so many good Netflix shows, and so it's going to be sad to see it leave if it does. However, our favorite hashtag,
Potential drink.
Potential drink. I really do hope this season. I really want it, and I know this is super, this is probably not going to happen.
#optimism.
Yes. I really want loose ends. As Kristen said, they're not going to be with us physically, but I want some loose ends to be closed off, and I want it to end organically, and I swear to God, if they end the show where they all have been sleeping and Henry actually is waiting to be adopted or something like that, like how they ruined Lost for me, I will come after you and slap you both.
We will fly to Vancouver.
Oh,
Yes.
my goodness. I just hope it ends the right way, and it's going down the Lost, timeline 100%, the season before the last season of Lost, I was like, why? Why didn't you just end it right here? And so now I feel like the season that we're about to go into, it's going to be what do we do? And I think the only reason it's coming back, as we said it, is because it makes money. And the reason why it moved to Friday is what you said, is somebody wants it gone. They just don't know how to get rid of it. I really think that's what it is they don't quite know how to end it, because they don't want to piss us off, because we've been here for so long, but they have so many things that they could, there's a million ways that they could end the show, and I don't think we're truly, because we're such big once supporters, I don't think any of us are going to be, super happy with how they end the show, and so I know that was a huge explanation, but that's totally where I'm at. Just know that I love you all, and that's the only reason I'm watching. No, I'm just
No, I definitely think this finale was the best jumping off point, and they were probably looking at it should we have stopped? And I was like, all right, filming starts in 4 months. We can't stop now. So here we go.
And I think that, I think that's the reason why a lot of the main cast is leaving, is because I think they, going back to our organic word, I think they organically know in their hearts, it's done. I'm done. Yeah. My character is done, and we need to leave.
Well, and a lot of them too. I know Jennifer Morrison had said, "I'm looking for a new challenge. I love Emma, but I've played her for 6 years. That's a long time to play a character. Mm-hmm. As an actor, I would want something different after 6 years.
Plus, you also don't want to get boxed in.
Exactly.
You want new challenges, but will the world let you have them after 10 seasons? Not usually.
Right.
Once again, holding out prayers for Jared and Jensen, because oh man, they're Sam and Dean till the end of time itself.
They are.
Yeah.
But I hope they get more after the show is done.
Well, actually, Jared is Sam and Dean all at the same time.
Gilmore Girls.
He's Dean on Gilmore.
There it is.
So he's got stuff. More than one thing.
That's happened to a lot of actors. You look at the Harry Potter series. The only person that didn't already have an established career that's really making a name for herself still is Emma Watson. Daniel Radcliffe has barely done anything, and Rupert Grint hasn't done much of anything either.
Daniel's done quite a bit.
He's done quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's purposefully chosen projects that disassociate himself from
Oh, yeah.
And he's been doing a lot of theater as well.
He has.
Yeah.
So
And
I
he's
don't
an
know that I would
incredible
agree
actor.
with that, but
Yeah.
He
Rupert
is.
definitely is.
He's a
off.
very incredible actor, but I was meaning more. He hasn't done a lot of the big projects. Emma Watson did Perks of Being a Wallflower, and she just did that new movie with Tom Hanks. Mm-hmm. So she's picking bigger things, whereas Daniel Radcliffe is kind of staying.
He's doing
more
smaller
the
indie films.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that's just a luxury of choice and of being rich off of making 8 films that made bazillions of money.
And still making the money off of them.
Right.
Yeah. So
So-
I think
Right.
Jennifer Morrison's going to go more into directing, I think she said.
Okay.
She wants to do some directing in some smaller projects.
Okay.
So my turn to answer these questions. And there are little nuggets that I agree with about, what everybody said. There are things that I related. However, and the answer to the "are you going to keep watching" question, my honest answer is yes, but that's just because I moderate this podcast panel. And I love you, and we're all going to do this podcast panel. If this were a normal situation, I would seriously consider stopping. Or maybe checking into the first few episodes of season 7 just to see how it goes, and if it elicited something within me, keeping watching. Otherwise, just being like, oh, because to me, if you're calling something different, it's essentially something different, but you're giving it the same name. How is that being genuine? to the original project that you started with, unless they're just recycling the formula, like you were kind of reading out of their tagline, Emily.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, there's not as much potential as I think everybody is hoping for. I think that's honestly hope and optimism. Maybe I'm not a glass half full kind of lady, but they've done little to give me the trust that they're going to be able to take this soft reboot and run with it. And the fact that the network did move it to Friday seems to me that they don't trust that this is going to happen either. I think this was a confluence of events. It was the contract negotiations. It was the fact that they were tapped out story-wise. It was the fact that the ratings are still pretty high. It's one of their higher-rated shows. But ironically, just to kind of bring that up, Eddie, you mentioned watching it season 1 and being so excited, and it was this great show, and I felt that same way. Once Upon a Time was in my top 5 shows for a while.
Yeah.
Agreed.
It doesn't even breach the top 10 anymore. I don't even think I could rank it as a favorite. I like it. I don't hate it. It's enjoyable. I'm in it sometimes when I watch it. I was definitely way more in it this half season than I have been in the last 3. But that's just where I'm at. It's like they've been very inconsistent with the 6 seasons they've had. How is this brand new thing based on something sounding kind of similar going to be any different than what we already got?
Yeah.
Which is kind of a bummer to say it that way, but at the same time, now if we're going to answer the question, would I recommend this show to others, I agree with Eddie. I can't recommend this one until it's done, because I can't tell somebody, only watch the season 6 and stop. I can't even say, because there are a lot of people out there that have, some of them are CPU core people who said, I tried watching that show and I gave up in season 2. So they gave up during one of the good seasons. I can't talk them into more. So this to me is not conducive to building up your core audience or getting better ratings. This sounds like exploitive, kind of like Disney does with some of their larger properties. They bleed it till it's dry. And that's what this feels like. So I can't recommend this right now. Now, if they do something truly spectacular, I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'll quote the doorknob in Alice in Wonderland. It's impassable. Nothing's impossible. I just don't think they've established a track record that makes me believe. I'm not Henry here, the heart of the truest believer. If you were going to talk to me about some other property, maybe, and everybody does kind of a rebuilding year. Supernatural is a golden example where they had 5 seasons. It was a perfect arc. There was an end point. That showrunner left. They kept going. But they built to something else.
Yeah, and then they had 6 more seasons, and it was literally the perfect place to end. The most perfect place any TV show has ever had, besides a nuclear bomb destroying the entire universe. And they were like, you know what? No.
That's the Supernatural podcast, but it's a very good example because it's possible to do that. But they had the same characters, they had the same universe, they had the same story. They just found a new direction for it and took it there. And it was successful mix of success. Some seasons were worse than others. That's very infamous amongst that fandom, of which I count one. But for Once Upon a Time, I don't think they're as established. They're not a cult show. It's a Sunday night staple show that people sit down to watch, or they don't. So I just don't see it. It kind of boggles my mind. This show, the network runner, boggles my mind. I don't know what she's thinking.
I don't know.
Even
Money.
if you leave this one aside, well, money's great, but then creatively they're going to have to sustain. And there are savvier TV audiences, way more competition, more than 3 major networks now. Cable is big, streaming is big. Netflix is coming out the box with Emmy nominations.
Like crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like
Okay,
one.
this isn't even
Yeah.
one of
They
their
gave me
big shows on Netflix. It's not like this is recommended for you. It's never been. It's actually.
It's never been
recommended
for
for
me.
me.
I do have to say I love the new Glow show on
I haven't
Netflix.
into it
Speaking,
yet, but I've heard a lot
speaking
of
of
good
Netflix.
I haven't tuned in yet, but
I had something I had to replace Sense8. Sorry. Not over that yet.
That's for the Sense8 podcast, which you're moderating. So save it.
Yeah.
So that's how I would say. And I know maybe I'm the cynical one here, but I used to love this show, and I do not love this show anymore. I really
And
don't.
unfortunately, to finish what you're saying, they made us not love it.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like,
that's a good point.
That's what hurts the most is that they gave us a show. We loved it. We gave them everything, and they have just done. I swear they've done everything they can to make us hate it more and more and more. And I wouldn't say I hate the show.
I'll say, by the way you're saying it, it almost makes it sound like even the writers are like, stop liking this show, we
No,
have to keep
it's
writing
no.
it.
I'm right there because, like Kylie said, the ratings are really high, so they're like, we gotta piss these people off so they stop watching.
Yeah.
So we can kill it.
but that just shows a lack of agency in what they're doing, and I don't know. I don't know who's to blame or really. I really think it's a combination of factors.
I know I'm not moderating this or anything, but this is a question that I just have in my head.
You can ask questions. That's not the exclusive
I know.
purview of the moderator.
But do you guys think, I mean, going back to when you guys started watching the show, that this is what they ultimately thought was going to be the end, and they got told that they have to keep going? Because I feel like this was their originally planned end, going back from season 1.
But yeah, I could see that, but to counter that, going along, a lot of the plot things that they've thrown in throughout the last 6 seasons have seemed very like, oh crap, we didn't finish writing this season, we need to keep writing it. So I don't know if this end has been pre-planned from the beginning and everything else in the middle was like, oh shoot, we need something to put in here, let's just, here you go. So I don't know if when they first sat down and came up with the concept for this show and they said, this is what season 1 will be, and this is what we ultimately want to get to. I think that was very strong, and then they were like, oh, shoot,
retconning.
this show is very popular. It's a lot more popular, and we want it to keep going in order to keep making money and keep the audience happy. Then I could see where that would be the case.
I don't think this was the intended end, or I don't think they had a planned ending.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't
They didn't have a planned ending on Lost. They were told that season 6 would be its last around the beginning of season 4. So then they were able to map out 4, 5, and 6. So that's part of the controversy because they came up with 6, even though they had written 6. I think that they had written all of season 1's story prior to the point of actually sitting down and filming it, because that has a very clear
Beginning, middle, end.
driving toward the breaking of the curse and the different things that happened in that season finale. I think each new season they've been trying for an arc. I think they got experimental but also partially a little lazy depending upon the season with 3 and 4 and 5, the ones that have the half seasons. I think Neverland was a plan, and they came out with that one very strong.
Surprisingly, I didn't start watching the show until the Neverland arc was on TV, and I saw commercials for that, and I was like, because I think I'd seen commercials for the show in passing, and I was like, that looks Disney, but I'm like edgy right now, so no. As for that one, and I still was not a big fan of Jennifer Morrison, at that time, but I saw those, and I was like, that looks really good. So then I started with season 1 and binged up until that point and got caught up, and that's when I became a true believer. So I know I hark back to this a lot, but literally it was the best of times. It was
The
just
worst
like
of times.
the worst of times were just around.
What followed it was the worst of times.
Yes.
I think their first ideas were always strong because they had something built around those first ideas.
Yeah.
But then when they had to keep continuing with the ideas, for example, your Frozen and your Queens of Darkness and whatever came after that. And there were good parts about it. Conceptually they had good ideas, but there was,
They
a
weren't as
lot
full
of stuff.
of ideas as we had before. They
Right.
were just like, it would be cool if this, and this, and then
Anything
everything
after
they crammed
Frozen
in
would have
there.
been phenomenal, I'm not gonna lie.
True. I was gonna say seasons like 3, 4, and 5 seemed to me they were college students that forgot to write their paper until the night before and were like, oh crap, we need to write this. Because season 1 was so well planned out, and then season 2 went very well too, and then everything else was like, oh crap, we didn't do this and we start filming tomorrow, we gotta quick write something up.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like to me. It didn't feel like they had any of it planned at all.
They need to take the time, and I think that's something that's growing as a trend in just TV watchers in general, partially because of streaming services, and they're not tied to the seasonal schedule. They just make the episodes when they make them, which Season 2 of Stranger Things is coming out quicker than I thought it would, so I'm a little trepidatious about that, but we are seeing more that they should just stop, formulate a good story, because audiences, I think, will appreciate good stories released, like especially we see with Doctor Who and Sherlock. Doctor Who was off the air for over a year because they had changed up things, and a lot of, once again for a different podcast, but there was a lot of merit to this new series because they took the time, and like with Sherlock, the pressure's on for that one, but every season is really, really good because they take the time, and I think that, which obviously this NBC program runner is not on board with this.
ABC.
Oh, I'm sorry, ABC. NBC, you're doing okay. This is us. Heroes Reborn is great. Love you, NBC. Yeah, for ABC, the showrunner, I don't think that they care about that at all. I honestly would rather that they were like, you know what? We're going to rerun an old show for this half of the year because we don't have anything to go right here, but we're writing. Like, I'd like that a lot more. We need to spend more time around the writing table.
The quality versus quantity.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or make it a shorter episode order. They did that with How to Get Away with Murder, and I think that is stronger for that show. But
even Game of Thrones, this season and the next season
they're
are going to be much shorter.
Because they don't need that extra time to tell the story that they want to tell.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's for the best.
When you have too much time, you get too much.
Yeah. Or it drags, or it slows down. The pacing is important.
Which just drives me the hell away from anything.
Yeah, you don't need filler. Yeah, I'd rather have quality episodes over the quantity of episodes.
Other than what we have already said, is there anything else you wish to say or predict or discuss about Once Upon a Time Season 6B or what's coming forward in Season 7?
They've been keeping 7 pretty well under wraps. So it'll be interesting to see if they release anything at Comic-Con San Diego in a week or two, but...
And it seems like they're really trying to get people back on board. From what they have released, it seems like they're really trying to get people back on board for this one, which makes me very skeptical.
Well, because everyone's going #WTF.
Yep. So we'll see. I don't
Isn't
know.
that what the kids say?
Yeah.
Kids might,
Hip lingo.
Yeah.
I'm up with the now.
I think their biggest challenge is that they need to establish intrigue that isn't just, we filmed this little teaser trailer in a mysterious way, but like actually give us plot points that were like, oh, like something like what I talked about with when I saw just the commercials for the Neverland arc, where I was like, I want to know what that is, and I will watch what I have to watch in order to get to where I need to be to watch that. Because they're also, if they can make this new season good enough and get enough buzz going, then their streaming numbers will pick up. Then we might see a lot more recommended for you with that Regina's eye and the apple. Like we all, it's a picture that we can all see in our minds, but haven't seen it in a while.
I wonder if we'll have that iconic image for Season 7, or if they're going to do something totally different. Will it still be Regina with the apple, or was Elsa with the apple, I think, at one point? But
the one thing I think they need to keep under wraps the absolute most is whatever the antagonistic force of this new season is, because I don't want to know at this point.
No.
I will tune in to figure out what's going on. And even if in the first 2 episodes we're still not sure, because shadow operating, people love that. When there's a bad guy doing stuff, but you don't know who it is or why they're doing what they're doing, but they're doing stuff. People love that.
I know it's a storybook universe. We cannot have another curse.
No.
We've done so many.
No more.
Or at least sleeping curses. That's the thing they've done.
Curses,
have gotta go.
Memory curses.
Transportation curses.
Please no.
Can someone just be a villain? Like, can we have like a mob boss style villain?
That doesn't have any super crazy special
That
powers.
evoked the Donbot from Futurama.
They just have power of like over people and influence.
Yeah.
Like what Mr. Gold originally
That's what I
was
want.
before he became a god, essentially.
Yeah.
We'll see.
A good old-fashioned villain would be wonderful for Season 7.
With that said, what I'd like to do once again is thank Emily, Kristen, Amie, Eddie, and Micah for joining us for our Once Upon a Time podcast panel. I'm going to now read our conclusory statement, which goes like this. CPU is produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, and hails from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, please do take the time to rate us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, or Google Play. That means give some stars, or maybe write a comment or review, because when people read those and there's some feedback, they want to listen more. So help us out if you could. If you have suggestions or shows we might consider, contact us at our website, which is couchpotatosunight.wordpress.com. Our email is couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com. We also have Facebook and Twitter, as I've mentioned. And of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around water cooler all the time. We have several more new episodes coming down the pike. We have live episodes coming down the pike. And you can search for any of our episodes, old or new, via the web. We're everywhere. Make sure you subscribe to the blog, any one of our channels or social media accounts to stay up on new events and episodes. Until our next episode, Once Upon a Time can currently be streamed in its entirety only on Hulu. Netflix is through season 5. Don't ask me why that discrepancy, but if you want to watch season 6, it's on Hulu. CPU will, now that everybody has said that they're going to watch it, our panel will rejoin Once Upon a Time after, most likely, the 7th season mid-season break, which will happen sometime early next winter, probably November or December. So provided that everyone is back for the so-called soft reboot and wants to talk about it, we'll reconvene and we'll talk about it with you. Until next time, keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned.
Bye-bye.